What if Jaime Lannister joined the Night's Watch to escape Cersei? Let's explore the depths of it in the video. The afternoon sun beats down on the gilded spires of the Red Keep as Jaime Lannister sits in his solar, staring at the letter bearing Robert's seal. The parchment feels heavier than mail in his hands. Warden of the East. The title that should bring honor instead feels like another chain around his neck. He sets the letter on the oak table and runs his fingers through golden hair. 17 years he has worn the white cloak. 17 years of standing guard, while his sister ruled as queen and bore bastards who would inherit the throne. 17 years of living a lie that grows heavier with each passing day. The door opens without a knock. Only one person enters his chambers with such boldness. Cersei sweeps into the room, her green silk dress rustling against the stones. Her emerald eyes flash with excitement as she notices the letter on his table. Warden of the East, she says, her voice carrying that familiar note of satisfaction. Robert finally recognizes your worth, though it took him long enough. Jaime does not look up from the parchment. Did it ever occur to you that I might not want more titles? More responsibility that binds me to this place? She laughs, the sound sharp in the quiet chamber. Since when does Jaime Lannister refuse power? Cersei moves to the window, gazing out at the city below. This is perfect. With your influence as warden and your position in the Kingsguard, we can ensure Joffrey's path to the throne remains clear. Our path to the throne, you mean? The words come out colder than he intended. Cersei turns, her eyes narrowing. Is there a difference? Everything we do is for our children. Our children who cannot bear our name. Our children who call another man father. Jaime finally looks at her, seeing the woman who has consumed his life since they shared a womb. Tell me, sister, when does this end? It ends when Joffrey sits the Iron Throne unchallenged, she snaps. When our blood rules the Seven Kingdoms as it should. When we no longer have to hide what we are. Jaime stands, his white cloak settling around his shoulders. The weight of it feels heavier than ever. And if we're discovered? If someone pieces together the truth about the children's parentage? What then? We've managed for 12 years. We'll manage for 12 more. Will we? He moves toward her, close enough to smell the rose water in her hair. Every day we risk everything. Every stolen moment, every shared glance, every lie we tell to cover the last one. How long before the tower falls? Cersei's hand rises to touch his cheek, but he steps back. The gesture that once sent fire through his blood now feels like a trap closing around his throat. You're being dramatic, she says. We're Lannisters. We've survived worse than court gossip. Have we? When I took these vows at 15, I thought I was choosing love over duty. Now I see I chose neither. I serve a king I despise while living a lie that poisons everything it touches. Her face hardens, the beautiful mask slipping to reveal something colder beneath. Poison. Is that what you call what we have? I call it what it is, Cersei. A secret that will destroy our children if it ever comes to light. A love that demands we betray every oath, every bond, every principle that makes life worth living. She slaps him. The sound echoes in the chamber like a thunderclap. Don't you dare, she hisses. Don't you dare reduce what we have to some common adultery. We are more than that. We have always been more. Jaime touches his stinging cheek, feeling something crack inside his chest. Not his heart. Something deeper. The foundation of everything he thought he knew about himself. Perhaps that's the problem. Before Cersei can respond, a knock comes at the door. Sir Preston Greenfield's voice carries through the oak. Sir Jaime, His Grace requests your immediate presence in the throne room. Jaime looks at Cersei one last time, seeing the fury and hurt warring in her green eyes. We'll finish this conversation later. Yes, she says quietly. We will. The throne room feels different as Jaime enters. The afternoon light streaming through the tall windows casts long shadows across the floor. Robert sits on the Iron Throne, looking every day of his 36 years. The crown sits crooked on his dark hair, and his hands rest heavily on the armrests of twisted swords. Jaime! Robert's voice booms across the hall. Come closer, we have much to discuss. Jaime approaches, his white cloak trailing behind him. He stops at the appropriate distance and offers a respectful nod. Your Grace. How may I serve? Robert studies him with dark blue eyes that still hold traces of the warrior who won the crown at the Trident. The Warden of the East. It suits you, I think. The Vale Lords will respect your name, and you've proven yourself capable in war. You honor me, Your Grace. Do I? Robert leans forward, his massive frame filling the throne. Tell me honestly, Jaime, are you content with your life? With your service? The question catches Jaime off guard. In all their years together, Robert has never asked him anything so personal. I serve at your pleasure, Your Grace. That's not what I asked. Robert's eyes narrow. I asked if you're content, if you're happy with the path you've chosen. Jaime hesitates. The honest answer sits on his tongue like a stone. Contentment is not a luxury afforded to those who serve Your Grace. Robert barks a laugh. Spoken like a true knight. But I see something in your eyes, Lannister. Something I recognize. The king's expression grows serious. The look of a man trapped by his own choices. I'm not sure I understand. Don't you? Robert stands, the throne groaning under his shifting weight. I've been thinking about Jon Arryn's death, about the burden of rule, of duty, of the choices that define a man's life. He descends the steps slowly, each footfall echoing in the vast chamber. Jon served the realm for 15 years as my hand. 15 years of putting the crown's needs above his own. It killed him in the end, I think. Jaime remained silent, unsure where this conversation leads. I've been considering who might replace him, Robert continues. Ned Stark has accepted, but he'll need time to settle his affairs in the north. Until then, I need someone I can trust. Someone with the strength to help me bear the weight of the crown. A chill runs down Jaime's spine. Your Grace, I'm thinking of naming you Hand of the King, Jaime. Temporarily, of course, until Ned arrives, but the idea has merit beyond convenience. Robert stops in front of him, close enough that Jaime can smell the wine on his breath. You have the tactical mind for it, the political connections, the respect of the noble houses. The words hit Jaime like a physical blow. Hand of the King, the position that would bind him to court forever, that would make it impossible to escape the web of lies and compromises that have defined his adult life. I'm honored by your consideration, Your Grace, but I'm not certain I'm suited for such responsibility. Nonsense. You've commanded armies. You understand politics better than most, and unlike some I could name, I trust you to tell me the truth, even when it's hard to hear. Trust. The word tastes like ash in Jaime's mouth. Robert trusts him while he beds the king's wife and calls his bastard sons princes. Your Grace, I must speak plainly. The position of Hand requires a man of unquestionable honor. My past, the circumstances of King Aerys's death, they may create complications. Robert waves a dismissive hand. The Kingslayer business? That's old news, Jaime. You saved King's Landing from wildfire. You saved my wife from a madman's revenge. History will vindicate you. Mark my words." The irony cuts deep. Robert defends his honor while remaining blind to his greatest betrayal. "I need time to consider your offer, Your Grace." "Of course. Take all the time you need." Robert claps him on the shoulder with enough force to stagger a smaller man. "But don't take too long. The realm needs strong hands to guide it, and I fear the coming years will test us all." Jaime manages a bow before Robert dismisses him. He walks from the throne room on unsteady legs, his mind reeling from the implications of what just occurred. Back in his chambers, he finds them empty. Cersei has gone, leaving only the faint scent of roses and the letter naming him Warden of the East. He sits heavily in his chair and stares at the parchment. Hand of the King. The ultimate trap. The position that would make him the second most powerful man in Westeros, while ensuring he could never escape the lies that define his existence. Jaime reaches for a fresh piece of parchment and a quill. His hand trembles as he dips the tip in ink. For long moments, he sits frozen, the weight of 17 years pressing down on him like a mountain. Then he begins to write. "Your Grace," the letter begins, "I humbly request release from my vows to the King's Guard, that I might take the Black and join the Night's Watch in service to the realm." The words look strange on the page, revolutionary, impossible. And yet, as he sets down the quill, Jaime feels something he hasn't experienced in years. The possibility of freedom, the chance to serve with honor instead of living a lie. He folds the letter and seals it with his personal signet. The golden lion, pressed into red wax, stares up at him like an accusation. Tomorrow he will deliver it to Robert. Tonight he will prepare for the storm that follows. For the first time since taking the White Cloak, Sir Jaime Lannister goes to sleep with a clear conscience. The next morning breaks grey and cold over King's Landing as Jaime walks through the Red Keep's corridors. The letter feels like a burning coal in his leather satchel. Servants bow as he passes, unaware that the man in the white cloak has chosen to abandon everything they believe he represents. The throne room doors swing open to reveal Robert hunched over a goblet of wine, despite the early hour. Dark circles ring his eyes, and his black beard looks unkempt. The crown sits crooked on the table beside the Iron Throne, abandoned like a child's toy. "Your Grace," Jaime approaches with measured steps, "I bring my response to your generous offer." Robert looks up, his blue eyes bloodshot but sharp. "That was quick, Jaime. Most men would spend days considering such an honor. Some decisions require little thought once the path becomes clear." Jaime produces the sealed letter and extends it toward the king. "Though I fear my choice may surprise you." Robert takes the parchment, breaks the seal, and unfolds it. His eyes scan the words once, twice, then a third time. His face shifts from confusion to disbelief to something approaching anger. "The Night's Watch?" Robert's voice echoes in the vast chamber. "Have you lost your mind, Lannister?" "I've found it, Your Grace, for the first time in years." Robert stands so quickly, his chair topples backward. "You want to throw away everything? Your family name, your titles, your place at court? To freeze your arse at the wall with criminals and bastards? The Night's Watch is the shield that guards the realms of men. There's honor in that service." "Honor?" Robert laughs, but there's no humor in it. "You speak of honor while abandoning your sworn duty as King's Guard, while leaving your king without protection?" The accusation stings because it holds truth. "I would never leave you defenseless, Your Grace. There are 6 other brothers of the King's Guard, all capable men. But none with your skill, none with your tactical mind." Robert begins pacing, his heavy footsteps echoing. This makes no sense. Jaime, yesterday you seemed content enough. What changed? Jaime chooses his words carefully. Perhaps I realized that contentment is not the same as purpose. The realm faces threats beyond the games of court. The Night's Watch defends against those dangers. Robert stops pacing and studies Jaime's face. There's something you're not telling me. No man abandons everything without cause. Sometimes the cause is freedom itself, Your Grace. The words hang in the air between them. Robert's expression shifts from anger to something approaching understanding. Freedom! He tastes the word like wine. Yes, I suppose I can understand that. Robert moves to the great windows overlooking the city. Very well. If this is truly what you want, I won't stand in your way. But it will take time to arrange. The Kingsguard has never released a living member before. I'm prepared to wait, Your Grace. You'll do more than wait. You'll face questions from everyone who matters in this kingdom, starting with the small council this afternoon. News of Jaime's request spreads through the Red Keep like wildfire. By midday, servants whisper in corners, and lords exchange meaningful glances in the corridors. The unprecedented nature of the request makes it impossible to contain. The small council meeting convenes in the afternoon. Jaime stands before the circular table as Robert reads his letter aloud. Grand Master Pycelle's ancient face wrinkles with confusion. Lord Renly Baratheon leans back in his chair with an expression of amused disbelief. Stannis Baratheon speaks first, his voice flat and disapproving. This is unprecedented. Kingsguard vows are for life. Until my last day leaves no room for interpretation. Yet the vows also speak of serving the realm, Jaime replies. Perhaps there are different ways to honor that service. Sophistry, Stannis snaps. You swore an oath. Breaking it for convenience sets a dangerous precedent. Lord Varys leans forward, his soft hands folded. Though one might argue that voluntary service to the Night's Watch demonstrates remarkable dedication to duty. How many lords would abandon comfort and titles for such harsh service? A fair point, Grand Maester Pycelle wheezes. The Night's Watch has always held an honored place in the realm's defense. Robert raises a hand to silence the debate. The decision is mine to make. Jaime has served faithfully for 17 years. If he wishes to serve differently, I won't deny him. The meeting continues for another hour, but the outcome remains unchanged. Robert will grant the release, though the process will take weeks to complete properly. As the council disperses, Jaime finds himself walking through the Godswood behind the Red Keep. The ancient weirwood stands silent in the center of the grove, its red leaves rustling in the afternoon breeze. Here, at least, he can find momentary peace. Brother. The voice makes him turn. Cersei emerges from behind a massive oak, her green dress a splash of color among the shadows. Her face shows the strain of sleepless nights and desperate worry. I heard what you've done, she says quietly. Tell me it's not true. It's true. She moves closer, close enough that he can see the tears threatening to spill from her emerald eyes. Why? Why would you do this to us? I'm not doing it to us, Cersei. I'm doing it for us. For our children. For our children? Her voice rises dangerously. You're abandoning our children. You're leaving them fatherless. They already have a father in the eyes of the realm. I'm simply ensuring they keep him. Cersei's hand flies to strike him, but this time he catches her wrist. The contact sends familiar fire through his blood, but he forces himself to remain steady. You don't understand, she whispers. Without you here, without your protection, we're vulnerable. Enemies will move against us. What enemies? Robert trusts you completely. The realm accepts Joffrey as his heir. For now. But secrets have a way of revealing themselves. Jon Arryn was asking questions before he died. Others will follow his path. The mention of the former hand sends a chill through Jaime. What kind of questions? Cersei looks away, her free hand twisting in her skirts. He was researching bloodlines, asking about the children's parentage, getting too close to truths that could destroy us all. Are you saying his death was convenient? I'm saying his death was timely, and I'm saying that your presence here is what keeps similar investigations from succeeding. Jaime releases her wrist and steps back. You're talking about murder, Cersei. I'm talking about survival, about protecting our family from those who would see us destroyed. Her voice grows desperate. Please, Jaime, don't leave us defenseless. I'm not leaving you defenseless. I'm leaving you clean. Every day I remain here, every stolen moment between us, increases the risk of discovery. At least if I'm gone, suspicion dies with distance. And what of love? What of everything we've shared? The question hits harder than any physical blow. Jaime looks at this woman who has defined his life since birth, who has been lover, sister, and obsession for more years than he cares to count. Perhaps that's the problem, he says finally. Perhaps love isn't enough when it demands we betray everything else. Cersei's face crumples. You bastard! You coward! Perhaps. But I'll be an honorable bastard and coward. She flees then, leaving him alone with the weirwood and the weight of his choices. 3 days later, a raven arrives from Casterly Rock. Tywin Lannister will reach King's Landing within the fortnight. The message contains only those facts, but Jaime can imagine his father's fury in every stroke of the Maester's pen. When Tywin arrives, he brings a retinue worthy of a king. 200 mounted men in crimson and gold accompany the Lord of Casterly Rock through the city gates. Citizens line the streets to watch the procession, reminded of Lannister power and wealth. Jaime waits in the Red Keep's main courtyard as his father dismounts. Tywin Lannister looks every inch the Lord Paramount, despite his 56 years. Golden hair shows threads of silver, but his green eyes remain sharp as sword points. He wears traveling leathers, but bears himself like a man in cloth of gold. Father. Jaime. Tywin's voice carries the chill of winter. We have much to discuss. They retire to Tywin's temporary chambers, where servants scurry to arrange furniture and hang Lannister banners. Father and son face each other across a table laden with wine and untouched food. Explain yourself, Tywin commands without preamble. I've requested release from the Kingsguard to join the Night's Watch. I know what you've requested. I want to know why. Jaime meets his father's stare without flinching, because the realm needs defending, and the wall is where that defense begins. Tywin's laugh holds no warmth. Spare me the noble speeches. The Night's Watch is where failures and criminals go to die forgotten. You are a Lannister. You are my heir. Tyrion is your heir now. Tyrion is a dwarf and a drunkard, useful for certain purposes, but hardly suitable to lead this house. Tywin leans forward. You will withdraw this absurd request and resume your proper place. No. The single word hangs in the air like a challenge. Tywin's eyes narrow to green slits. No. I've served as your sword for 17 years, Father. I've fought your wars, followed your strategies, carried out your plans. No more. You ungrateful whelp. Tywin's voice remains level, but ice forms in every syllable. Everything you are, everything you have, comes from this family, from the name you bear. And what has that name cost me? What has it demanded? Jaime stands, his chair scraping against stone. I've lived my entire adult life as a tool for your ambitions and Cersei's needs. When do I get to choose my own path? When you've secured this family's future, when you've done your duty. My duty is to the realm, not to family ambition. Tywin rises slowly, his face a mask of controlled fury. If you persist in this madness, you will be no son of mine. I'll disinherit you completely, strip you of name and gold, and leave you with nothing but the black rags of your choosing. The threat should terrify him. Once it would have. Now Jaime feels only relief. Then do it. Disinherit me. Give Casterly Rock to Tyrion or to distant cousins. I care not. You would throw away the greatest lordship in Westeros for the privilege of freezing at the wall? I would trade a golden cage for honest service. Yes. Tywin stares at him for long moments, searching for weakness or deception. Finding neither, his expression shifts to something approaching disgust. Very well. If you choose to throw your life away, I won't stop you. But don't expect welcome when you realize your mistake. I don't expect anything, Father. For the first time in my life, that feels like freedom. Tywin says nothing more. He turns his back on his eldest son and stares out the window at the city below. Jaime takes the dismissal for what it is and leaves without another word. That evening, Tyrion arrives from his travels. Jaime's younger brother finds him on the battlements overlooking Blackwater Bay, where the setting sun turns the water to molten gold. "Brother," Tyrion calls as he approaches. "I hear you've been making interesting decisions in my absence." Jaime glances down at the dwarf. Despite their differences in size and temperament, Tyrion has always understood him better than anyone else in the family. Interesting is one word for it. Father is apoplectic. Cersei is inconsolable. The entire court buzzes with speculation. Tyrion climbs onto a crenellation to bring himself closer to eye level. "So, tell me true. Why the Night's Watch? Why not? It's honorable service. Come now, you've never cared overmuch for honor before. What changed?" Jaime considers lying, then decides his brother deserves better. "I realized I was living a lie. The Night's Watch offers a chance to live truthfully." Tyrion studies his face in the dying light. "Ah, and does this lie have anything to do with our dear sister's particular affections?" The question hits like a crossbow bolt. Jaime's hand instinctively moves toward his sword hilt before he catches himself. "Careful, brother. I'm always careful. It's what keeps me alive." Tyrion's mismatched eyes show only understanding, not judgment. "For what it's worth, I think you're making the right choice." "Do you?" "God knows someone in this family should try growing a conscience. Might as well be you." They stand in comfortable silence as night falls over King's Landing. Far below, torches begin to flicker in windows and braziers. The city breathes and lives, unaware that one man's choice might change everything. "Will you visit me at the wall?" Jaime asks, "if you'll have a dwarf's company, though I hear the accommodations are rather austere." "They can't be worse than this place," Tyrion chuckles. "No, I suppose they can't." As the first stars appear overhead, Jaime feels something settle in his chest. Peace, perhaps, or simply the absence of the guilt that has gnawed at him for so many years. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, new arguments, new attempts to change his mind. But tonight, for the first time since taking the White Cloak, Jaime Lannister sleeps without dreams of golden chains. The great hall of the Red Keep has not witnessed such an unprecedented gathering in 3 centuries. Lords and ladies pack the benches, while members of the small council occupy places of honor near the Iron Throne. The morning sun streams through tall windows, casting long shadows across the stone floor. Grand Maester Pycelle stands before the assembled court, his chain of office weighing heavy on his stooped shoulders. Ancient scrolls and leather-bound tomes surround him like fortress walls. His voice carries the weight of years as he addresses the king. "Your Grace, I have searched every record, every chronicle, every precedent in the archives." Pycelle's rheumy eyes dart toward Jaime. In 700 years of the King's Guard's existence, no member has ever requested voluntary release from their vows. Murmurs ripple through the gathered nobles. Ladies whisper behind fans, while lords exchange meaningful glances. The unprecedented nature of the request makes every person present a witness to history. Stannis Baratheon rises from his seat at the small council table. His jaw works like a man chewing bitter herbs. The law is clear, Your Grace. Kingsguard vows are sworn for life, until my last day, admits no interpretation. Yet the Crown has authority over all oaths sworn in its service, Lord Varys interjects smoothly. If His Grace chooses to release a sworn brother, who can gainsay the royal will? Precedent matters, Stannis replies coldly. If we allow one man to abandon sacred vows for personal whim, what prevents others from following? The institution loses all meaning. Robert shifts on the Iron Throne, the ancient swords groaning under his weight. He has dressed for the occasion in cloth of gold doublet and the crown of Aegon the Conqueror. Despite his finery, weariness shows in every line of his face. Jaime Lannister has served faithfully for 17 years, Robert declares. He asks not for lands or gold or titles, but for the privilege of continued service to the realm. If that is personal whim, then I would we had more men afflicted with such whims. Cersei sits in the place of honor reserved for the Queen, her face a mask of cold beauty. She wears deep green silk that matches her eyes, but those eyes burn with barely controlled fury. When Robert speaks of Jaime's faithful service, her lips compress into a thin line. The Night's Watch is an ancient and honored order, Grandmaster Pycelle continues. To join their ranks requires surrender of all previous ties and obligations. If Sir Jaime chooses this path, the law supports his right to do so. With royal permission, Stannis adds grimly, which I grant freely, Robert says. Let it be recorded that Sir Jaime Lannister is hereby released from his vows to the Kingsguard, that he might serve the realm in a different capacity. The words echo through the hall like thunder. History turns on such moments, and everyone present feels the weight of witnessing something that will be remembered long after they are dust. Jaime steps forward from where he has stood silent throughout the proceedings. He wears the white cloak of the Kingsguard for the final time, its pristine fabric a stark contrast to his golden hair. His hand rests on the pommel of his sword, the weapon that has served him through countless battles. Your Grace, Jaime's voice carries clearly through the hall. I am prepared to renounce my vows before the court. Robert nods. Then let it be done properly. The ceremony that follows has no precedent, so they create one as they proceed. Jaime kneels before the Iron Throne, while Grandmaster Pycelle reads the ancient words of the Kingsguard oath. Each line that once bound him to service now releases him from that service. Do you, Jaime of House Lannister, renounce your vows as sworn brother of the Kingsguard? I do. Do you surrender all claims to lands, titles and inheritance held through that service? I do. Do you release your king from all obligations owed to your person through that service? I do. Ser Barristan Selmy approaches with visible reluctance. The Lord Commander's weathered face shows deep disapproval, but duty compels him to participate. He reaches for the golden clasp that holds Jaime's white cloak. I have served beside you for 17 years, Barristan says quietly, his words meant for Jaime alone. I pray you find whatever honor you seek. The clasp opens with a soft click. The white cloak falls from Jaime's shoulders like shed skin. Beneath, he wears simple leathers in Lannister crimson and gold. Without the cloak, he looks younger somehow, or perhaps simply unburdened. Rise, Jaime Lannister, Robert commands. You are released from service to the crown. May you find honor in whatever service you choose next. The hall remains silent as Jaime stands. He has become the first man in 3 centuries to leave the Kingsguard alive and whole. The weight of that achievement presses on everyone present. As the court disperses, Jaime finds himself walking toward the royal family's private chambers. He has farewells to make, difficult though they may be. Joffrey waits in the solar with his siblings, his young face bright with confusion and hurt. At 12 years old, he understands little beyond the fact that the man he has known all his life is leaving. Myrcella, 8 years old, with Cersei's golden hair and green eyes, clutches a wooden doll against her chest. 7-year-old Tommen sits quietly beside his brother, his round face solemn. "Uncle Jaime?" Joffrey's voice cracks with the uncertainty of approaching manhood. "Why are you leaving us?" The question cuts deeper than any sword. Jaime kneels before the children who share his blood, but can never know that truth. "Sometimes men must choose difficult paths to serve the greater good," he says carefully. "The realm has many needs. The Night's Watch protects us all from dangers in the north." "But you protect, father," Myrcella says softly. "Who will protect him if you leave? Your father has many guards, sweet girl. Good men who will keep him safe." "Will we see you again?" Tommen asks. The honest answer is probably not, but Jaime cannot bring himself to speak such finality to a child. "Perhaps someday, when your duties allow and mine permit." He embraces each of them in turn, memorizing the feel of their small arms around his neck. These children who call him uncle, who trust him completely, who represent both his greatest love and his deepest shame. "Be good for your mother," he tells them. "Grow strong and wise and honorable." Joffrey straightens his shoulders with princely dignity. "I will be king someday. I will be strong." "I know you will." The lies come easily now. They are kindnesses wrapped in deception, final gifts to children who deserve better than the truth. Tyrion finds him in his chambers as he packs the last of his belongings. His brother perches on a chair like a gargoyle, watching with intelligent eyes as Jaime folds traveling clothes into leather saddlebags. Traveling light, I see. The Night's Watch provides what a man needs. Anything else is vanity. Spoken like a man already half convinced he's a monk. Tyrion tilts his head. Any regrets? Jaime considers the question honestly. Fewer than I expected. That's something, at least. Tyrion slides down from the chair and approaches. I've brought you a parting gift. He produces a small leather pouch that clinks with the sound of gold. For the road. Even humble brothers of the Night's Watch need coin for supplies. I can't accept. You can and you will. Consider it payment for 17 years of keeping father's attention focused elsewhere. Tyrion's grin holds genuine warmth. Besides, where you're going, gold spends as well as anywhere else. Jaime takes the pouch, surprised by its weight. Thank you, brother. Take care of yourself at the wall. You're the only Lannister with honor, and I'd hate to see that honor freeze to death in the first winter. They clasp hands, and Jaime feels the depth of affection that has always existed between them, despite their different natures. Visit me if you can, Jaime says. Count on it. Someone needs to ensure you're not eating nothing but salt pork and black bread. The door opens without announcement. Cersei enters like a queen claiming conquered territory, her green dress rustling against the stones. Her face shows no trace of the tears that have marked recent days. Instead, she wears her court mask, beautiful and cold as winter. Leave us, Tyrion, she commands. Sister, Tyrion begins. Leave us. Tyrion glances at Jaime, who nods. With visible reluctance, the dwarf departs, closing the door behind him. Cersei and Jaime face each other across the chamber, where they have shared so many stolen moments. The bed where she once came to him stands unmade against the far wall. The window where they whispered plans and promises looks out over the city they both sought to rule. This is your final choice? She asks. It is. Then you are dead to me. The words should wound, but Jaime feels only relief. I've been dead for 17 years, Cersei. Now I choose to live. Her mask slips for just a moment, revealing the desperate woman beneath. And what of us? What of everything we built together? We built it on lies and stolen moments, and the constant fear of discovery. That's not love, sister. That's mutual destruction disguised as passion. You bastard. The words come out as a whisper. You craven, honorable bastard. Perhaps, but I'll sleep better for it. She turns and leaves without another word, taking with her 17 years of shared history and tangled love. The door closes with a sound like finality itself. Jaime finishes packing in silence. Everything he owns fits into 2 saddlebags and a traveling pack, a lifetime reduced to practical necessities. His sword he keeps. The blade that has served him since earning his spurs deserves better than to rust in some armory. At the wall, it will find new purpose in defense of the realm. The next morning dawns clear and cold. Jaime leads his destrier into the Red Keep's courtyard, where a small escort waits. Robert has provided 6 men-at-arms to see him safely to the Riverlands, where he will join the next party of recruits heading north. Few courtiers gather to witness his departure. Those who do watch with expressions ranging from curiosity to confusion to barely concealed relief. The Kingslayer is leaving. Whatever that means for the future, it changes everything. Robert appears on the steps of the keep, still wearing his nightrobe but bearing the crown. He looks older in the morning light, worn down by years of rule and excess. "Safe travels, Jaime Lannister," the king calls out. "May you find what you seek at the wall." "Thank you, your grace." "For everything." Robert nods and turns away. He has other concerns now, other problems to solve. The Kingslayer's departure is history already, filed away with 1,000 other royal decisions. Jaime mounts his destrier and takes one last look at the Red Keep. Red stone walls that have held his life for so many years now release him to whatever comes next. He feels no sadness, only the strange lightness of a man finally unburdened. The gates of King's Landing open before him like the pages of an unwritten book. 3 days north of the capital, the escort stops at a waystation inn called the Prancing Pony. The building squats beside the King's Road like a stone toad, its thatched roof thick with moss and its walls stained by weather and age. Jaime sits alone at a corner table, nursing a cup of ale that tastes like liquid bread. The inn's common room buzzes with conversation from merchants, sellswords, and travellers of every description. None recognize him without the white cloak and Kingsguard armour. For the first time since he was 15 years old, Jaime Lannister is simply another man seeking passage north. The inn door opens to admit a new arrival. The man who enters wears the black leather and rough wool of the Night's Watch. He is perhaps 50 years old, with grizzled hair and scars marking his weathered face. A short sword hangs at his hip, and his boots bear the mud of long roads. "Yoren of the Night's Watch," the man announces to the innkeeper, "looking for lads with strong backs and stronger reasons to head north." Several men in the common room shift uncomfortably. Criminals fleeing justice often find the Night's Watch a preferable alternative to the headsman's block. Jaime approaches the recruiter's table. "I'm headed to the wall myself. Might I share the road?" Yoren looks him up and down with experienced eyes. "You don't look like the usual sort. What's your crime, lordling?" "No crime. I'm a volunteer." "Volunteer?" Yoren laughs. "Haven't seen one of those in years. What's your name?" "Jaime. Jaime of Lannisport." It's not quite a lie. He was born at Lannisport, even if he was raised elsewhere. "Well, Jaime of Lannisport, volunteers are welcome as any other. Road's dangerous enough that extra swords never go amiss." Yoren gestures to an empty chair. "Sit. Tell me what drives a lordling to choose the black willingly." Jaime sits and considers his answer. "I've spent my life serving the powerful. I'd like to try serving a cause greater than any one man." "Greater cause?" Yoren snorts. "Brother, the Night's Watch is where the realm sends its unwanted. Thieves and rapers and killers mostly. If you're looking for noble purpose, you might want to reconsider." "Perhaps, but someone has to stand guard. Someone has to watch the wall." Yoren studies him with new interest. "You've thought about this?" "More than most decisions I've made." "Fair enough. We leave at first light. Hope you're ready for hard travel and harder truths about what waits at the end of the road. That night, Jaime lies on a straw mattress in the inn's common sleeping chamber. Around him, other travelers snore and mutter in their sleep. The air smells of unwashed bodies and stale rushes. He should feel discomfort. For 17 years he has slept in feather beds within stone walls, protected by guards and served by silent servants. Now he lies among common men, heading toward an uncertain future. Instead, he feels peace. Tomorrow he will join Yoren's party heading north. In a fortnight, perhaps less, he will reach the wall and begin a new life in service to something larger than family ambition or personal desire. For the first time since taking the white cloak, Jaime Lannister falls asleep without guilt, weighing on his conscience. Outside the inn, the night wind carries the promise of change on its breath. The ancient walls of Winterfell rise from the frozen earth like the bones of sleeping giants. Snow dusts the battlements despite the season, and steam rises from the hot springs that warm the castle's heart. Jaime rides through the main gate with only Yoren and 3 Night's Watch recruits as company, his royal escort having turned back at the neck. Guards wearing the dire wolf of House Stark watch with suspicious eyes as the small party crosses the courtyard. Servants pause in their duties to stare at the golden-haired man who no longer wears white. Word travels faster than ravens in the north. They know who he is and what he was. Ned Stark emerges from the great keep as Jaime dismounts. The Lord of Winterfell looks older than his 35 years, grey already threading through his brown hair. The burden of recent events shows in every line of his weathered face. A great sword hangs at his hip, its wolf's head pommel catching the pale sunlight. Sir Jaime. Ned's voice carries the chill of winter winds. I had not expected to see you in the north. Nor I expected to seek your hospitality, Lord Stark. But the road north leads through your lands. Jaime inclines his head respectfully. I request guest right for myself and my companions. The words hang in the air between them. Guest right is sacred in the north, but Ned's grey eyes show the struggle between honor and old resentments. Jaime waits, knowing that a northern honor will win over personal feelings. Guest right is granted, Ned says finally, though I confess curiosity about what brings the king, what brings Jaime Lannister to Winterfell. I travel to Castle Black, my lord, to take the Black and join the Night's Watch. Surprise flickers across Ned's features. Around the courtyard, servants and guards exchange glances of disbelief. The idea of a Lannister joining the Night's Watch strikes them as absurd as lions learning to fly. The Night's Watch. Ned studies Jaime's face, as if searching for deception. That is unexpected. Many things have been unexpected of late, Lord Stark. Catelyn Stark appears at her husband's shoulder, her auburn hair bound with a simple leather cord. Her blue eyes regard Jaime with undisguised hostility. The woman who grew up as Catelyn Tully remembers the sack of King's Landing and what Lannister gold purchased that day. The Kingslayer under our roof, she says quietly, but her words carry like sword strokes. I wonder what his father would think of that. I imagine Lord Tywin would think many things, my lady, none of them flattering to any party involved. Ned shoots his wife a warning look. Catelyn. I know the laws of hospitality, Ned. That doesn't mean I must pretend pleasure at this honor. Jaime finds himself almost smiling at her directness. I seek no pleasure here, Lady Stark. Only passage north, and perhaps a warm meal before facing the cold of the wall. Which you shall have, Ned declares firmly. Maester Luwin will see to quarters for you and your companions. We dine at sunset in the Great Hall. The chambers assigned to Jaime overlook Winterfell's Godswood. Through the narrow window, he can see the ancient heart tree with its bone-white bark and bleeding red leaves. The weirwood has stood here since before the coming of the Andals, watching over Stark lords for thousands of years. Jaime sits on the simple wooden bed and considers the strangeness of his situation. A fortnight ago, he slept in the Red Keep as a knight of the King's Guard. Now he prepares to break bread with Ned Stark, whose brother and father he saw murdered by the Mad King. A knock at the door interrupts his brooding. Enter. A serving girl appears with basin and towels. Lord Stark sends these for your comfort, my lord. Supper is served when the bell rings. Thank you. Jaime studies her face, seeing the mixture of curiosity and nervousness there. Tell me, what do the people of Winterfell think of the Kingslayer's visit? The girl's eyes widen at his directness. It's not my place to say, my lord. Perhaps not. But I'd hear it anyway. She glances toward the door, ensuring no one listens. Some say you're fleeing justice for crimes in the south. Others say it's madness that drives you to the wall. A few think it might be honor. And what do you think? I think a man's reasons are his own, my lord. The Night's Watch has taken stranger folk than you. Wise words from an unlikely source. Jaime thanks her and prepares for the evening ahead. The great hall of Winterfell buzzes with conversation as the household gathers for the evening meal. Banners bearing the Stark direwolf hang from the rafters, and torches cast dancing shadows on ancient stone walls. The high table hosts the immediate family, while household knights and retainers fill the lower tables. Jaime takes the place of honor to Ned's right, noting how conversation's quiet as he passes. Lady Catelyn sits to her husband's left, her face a mask of cold courtesy. The Stark children occupy places according to age and station. Robb Stark, heir to Winterfell at 15, watches Jaime with the intensity of a young man trying to understand adult complexities. Sansa, 11 and already showing beauty that will rival her mother's, steals glances while pretending to focus on her food. Arya, 9 years old with her father's long face and grey eyes, stares openly with the fearless curiosity of youth. Bran, only 7, seems more interested in his honey cakes than the notorious guest. Little Rickon, barely past his 4th name day, chatters happily with his wet nurse. At the table's end sits Jon Snow, Ned's bastard son, his dark hair and grey eyes marking him as clearly Stark, despite the stigma of his birth. You've travelled far, Jaime, Ned says, as servants place roasted mutton and fresh bread before them. What news from the capital? Little that would surprise you, Lord Stark. The realm continues much as it has since Robert took the throne. The small council meets, lords petition for favours, and the king grows restless with the burdens of rule. And your family? How do they view your change in circumstances? Jaime cuts a piece of meat with deliberate care. About as you might expect. My father sees it as abandonment of duty. My sister considers it betrayal. My brother thinks it might be wisdom. Wisdom! Catelyn's voice carries sharp edges. To abandon sworn vows? To choose new service when the old has become complicated? Why do they call you the Kingslayer? The question comes from Arya, her young voice cutting through the hall's conversations like a blade. The room falls silent. Even the servants stop their movements to hear the answer. Arya, Catelyn snaps. Mind your manners. It's a fair question, Jaime says quietly. One I've answered 1,000 times in my own mind. He looks directly at the girl, seeing Ned's features in her lean face. They call me Kingslayer because I killed King Aerys Targaryen with my sword. But he was mad, Arya says with the logic of youth. Father says he burned people alive. He did. He planned to burn King's Landing itself rather than let Robert take the city. I stopped him. Then you saved everyone, Arya declares. Why don't they call you the city saver? The innocence of the question hits Jaime like a physical blow. In a child's mind, the moral calculation is simple. Save a city full of people. Be a hero. The rest is adult complication. Because the world is more complex than children understand, he says gently. I broke a sacred oath when I killed him. Knights are supposed to protect their kings, not murder them. Even mad kings who burn people? Especially then, some would say. Honor doesn't bend for convenience. Ned has remained silent throughout this exchange, but now he speaks. Yet sometimes honor and duty point in different directions. Those are the moments that define a man. The words carry weight beyond their surface meaning. Jaime meets the Lord of Winterfell's grey eyes and sees understanding there. They have both faced impossible choices and lived with the consequences. The conversation turns to safer topics as the meal continues. Robb asks about fighting techniques. Sansa inquires politely about court fashions. Bran wants to know if Jaime has ever fought giants or wildlings. After the meal, Ned invites Jaime to walk with him through Winterfell's ancient halls. They pass beneath stone arches, carved by hands dead 1,000 years, their footsteps echoing in the silence. "You surprised me tonight," Ned says as they walk. "I expected deflection or justification. Instead, you spoke truth to a child." "Perhaps I've grown tired of lies, Lord Stark." "Perhaps. Or perhaps you've learned the weight they carry." Ned stops beside a window overlooking the godswood. "I've wondered, over the years, what drove you to that choice. Robert told me the official story, but I've always suspected there was more." There was. Aerys planned to ignite caches of wildfire hidden throughout the city. His pyromancers had placed them in the Great Sept, the guild halls, under every major building. He meant to burn King's Landing and everyone in it rather than surrender. Ned's face grows grim. "How many knew of this?" "Too few. Myself. The pyromancers who placed the charges. Perhaps 1 or 2 others." Jaime stares out at the heart tree, its red leaves rustling in the evening breeze. "I could have reported to Robert's forces when they reached the city, warned them of the danger. Let them decide what to do about the Mad King." "But you chose to act yourself." "I chose to ensure the city survived, whatever the cost to my reputation." They stand in comfortable silence for long moments, 2 men who have made hard choices and lived with the weight of judgment. "You killed a king to save King's Landing," Ned says finally. "What haunts you more, the act or the honor lost?" The question cuts to the heart of 17 years of guilt and justification. "The honor," Jaime admits. "I could have found another way, warned someone, acted with witnesses. Instead, I chose the quick path and let history judge me a kingslayer. History may yet vindicate you. Truth has a way of emerging, given time. Perhaps, though I doubt I'll live to see that vindication." They part ways in the corridor outside Jaime's chambers. Tomorrow he will continue north toward Castle Black and whatever awaits him there. Tonight he finds unexpected peace in honest conversation with an honorable enemy. Before sleep, Jaime walks in Winterfell's godswood. The heart tree stands ancient and knowing in the grove's center, its face carved in timeless sorrow. Old gods watched this land before the 7 came to Westeros. They may watch it long after the 7 are forgotten. A figure sits on a fallen log near the tree's base. Jon Snow looks up as Jaime approaches, his bastard's face showing wariness and curiosity in equal measure. "Couldn't sleep either?" Jon asks. "The road makes for restless nights. And you?" "I often come here to think. The gods are good listeners, even for bastards." Jaime settles on the log beside him, noting how the boy, nearly a man at 14, tenses at the proximity. Bastards and kingslayers both, it seems. We make an interesting pair. "I'm nothing like you," Jon says quickly. "No. We're both marked by circumstances beyond our control, both judged for things we cannot change. You chose to kill the king. I didn't choose to be born bastard." "True. But we both live with the consequences of other people's choices. Your father's moment of weakness, my king's madness." Jaime studies the boy's profile in the moonlight. "At least you had choices about what came next. You could embrace your bastard status or fight against it." What choices? Jon's voice carries bitter edge. I can serve my father as a bastard son, never quite belonging, or I can take the black and serve the realm as a bastard brother. You're considering the Night's Watch. Uncle Benjen says it's honorable service, that bastards can rise high in the watch if they prove themselves. Jaime thinks of his own reasons for choosing the black: escape from impossible situations, the chance to serve with genuine honor instead of pretense and lies. Your uncle speaks truth. The Night's Watch cares nothing for birth or past crimes, only for what a man does after he takes the vows. Is that why you're joining? To escape your past? To escape a future that held nothing but more of the same compromises? Jaime looks at the carved face in the heart tree. I've spent 17 years serving without honor. I'd like to try serving with it. But you're giving up everything: lands, titles, marriage, children. What good are those things if they're built on foundations of lies? Jon considers this in the way of young men wrestling with adult concepts. Uncle Benjen says the watch is hard, that many men break under the strain. Your uncle is wise to warn you. The wall is not a place for romantic notions. It's cold and brutal and thankless. Men die there forgotten by the realm they protect. Then why go? Because someone must. Because the realm needs protecting, and the wall is where that protection begins. Jaime meets the boy's grey eyes. We make our own honor, Jon Snow. Not through birth or gifts of blood, but through choices. Every day we choose who we are. Even bastards can choose honor. Especially bastards. You have less to lose and more to prove. They sit in silence for a while, two outcasts finding unexpected kinship in Winterfell's ancient godswood. When Jaime finally returns to his chambers, he feels something settling in his chest. Peace, perhaps, or simply the satisfaction of honest conversation with someone who understands the weight of choosing difficult paths. The next morning brings news that Benjen Stark has returned from ranging beyond the wall. The first ranger of the Night's Watch arrives with 12 men, their black cloaks travel-stained, and their faces bearing the hard cast of those who have seen too much. Benjen greets his brother warmly in Winterfell's courtyard, before turning attention to the unexpected guests. He studies Jaime with intelligent eyes that miss nothing. Jaime Lannister, Benjen says without preamble. I heard rumors of your choice in the capital. I confess I didn't believe them. Yet here I am, seeking passage to Castle Black. Here you are indeed. Benjen circles him like a hunter evaluating prey. What do you know of the Night's Watch, Lannister? Beyond the stories they tell in the south? I know it's an ancient order dedicated to defending the realm. I know it requires surrender of all previous ties and absolute commitment to duty. I know it's harder than anything I've faced before. Good. At least you're not coming north with romantic notions about noble sacrifice. Benjen's expression grows serious. The Watch has need of experienced fighters. Wildlings grow bold beyond the wall, and our numbers shrink each year. If you're truly committed to this path, you'll be welcome. I am committed. We'll see. Commitment is easy to claim in a warm castle. It's harder to maintain during your first winter beyond the wall. That afternoon, as Benjen's party prepares to depart, Ned takes Jaime aside for private farewell. They stand in Winterfell's courtyard, while supplies are loaded and horses readied. I misjudged you, Ned says quietly. For years I saw only the Kingslayer. I failed to see the man who made an impossible choice in an impossible situation. You saw what I allowed you to see, Lord Stark. The truth was easier to hide behind infamy. Perhaps, but I should have looked deeper. Honor takes many forms, and not all of them are comfortable. Ned extends his hand. I wish you well at the wall. The realm will be safer for your service. They clasp hands as equals for the first time, two men who understand the weight of difficult choices. Whatever history lies between their houses, this moment transcends old grudges. As Jaime rides north with Benjen's party, he looks back once at Winterfell's walls. The ancient seat of House Stark has given him something unexpected, not just passage north, but perspective on honor and the courage to pursue it. The wall waits ahead, along with whatever redemption or destruction it holds. For the first time in years, Jaime Lannister rides toward his future without fear of what he might find there. The wall rises from the frozen earth like a frozen mountain built by gods. 700 feet of ice and stone stretches east and west beyond sight, older than kingdoms, and harder than winter itself. Jaime stops his horse at the edge of the haunted forest and stares up at the ancient barrier that has guarded the realms of men for 8,000 years. Impressive, isn't it? Benjen Stark's voice carries amusement at Jaime's reaction. Every man stops and stares on his first sight, even kings. It's larger than I imagined. Jaime's words feel inadequate for what towers before him. The stories don't capture the reality. Stories never do. The wall is meant to be seen, not described. Castle Black squats at the wall's base like a collection of stone buildings thrown together by a drunk mason. The fortress shows its age in cracked walls and patched roofs, but banners bearing the Night's Watch ravens fly proudly from its towers. Smoke rises from chimneys while men in black move through the courtyards with purposeful efficiency. The party rides through Castle Black's gates as afternoon shadows lengthen. Brother rangers nod respectfully to Benjen while studying the new arrivals with curious eyes. Jaime notes how their gazes linger on him, recognition dawning in weathered faces. Word travels fast even here, Benjen observes. Your reputation precedes you. As does my infamy, no doubt. Both have their uses. Come, Lord Commander Mormont will want to see you immediately. They cross the main courtyard where recruits practice sword work under the supervision of a grizzled master-at-arms. The man's face bears old scars and fresh disapproval as he watches the new arrivals. His eyes fix on Jaime with particular intensity. Sir Alliser Thorne, Benjen says quietly, our master-at-arms. He fought for the Targaryens during Robert's rebellion. You may find his welcome less than warm. I've faced hostile receptions before, not like his. Alliser enjoys breaking men who think themselves above their station. The Lord Commander's tower stands at the castle's heart, its black stone walls bearing the weight of centuries. Benjen leads Jaime up narrow stairs to chambers that serve as both office and home to the man who commands the Night's Watch. Jeor Mormont, Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, looks up from a table covered with maps and reports. The Old Bear, as his men call him, shows his 65 years in grey hair and lined face, but his dark eyes remain sharp as steel. A large black raven perches on his shoulder, its intelligent gaze fixed on the newcomers. Benjen, Mormont's voice carries the authority of a man accustomed to command. You bring interesting company. Lord Commander, may I present Jaime Lannister, lately of the Kingsguard, come to take the black. Mormont studies Jaime with the intensity of a hunter evaluating dangerous prey. Long moments pass before the old man speaks again. Jaime Lannister, the Kingslayer himself. The title carries no judgment, merely acknowledgement. Why would the Warden of the East want to freeze at the wall? The question cuts to the heart of why Jaime has travelled so far from comfort and privilege. He meets Mormont's stare without flinching. Because the realm needs it more than I need glory, Lord Commander. Glory? Mormont's laugh rumbles like distant thunder. Brother, there's no glory at the wall, only duty and cold, and the certainty that the realm forgets we exist. Perhaps that's what I seek, to serve without recognition or reward. Admirable sentiment. We'll see how long it lasts when winter comes. Mormont stands, his massive frame filling the chamber. You understand what joining the Night's Watch means? What you surrender? I surrender everything I was to become what the realm needs. Pretty words. But words are wind here. Actions matter. Survival matters. Can you take orders from men you once outranked? Can you clean stables and mend walls and stand watch in storms? Can you kill wildlings who were once free folk? I can learn. You'll have to. Age and experience count for nothing until you prove yourself useful. Mormont moves to the window overlooking Castle Black's courtyard. Alliser will train you with the other recruits. He'll treat you no differently than a baker's son or a thief from Flea Bottom. Some men break under his methods. I won't break. We'll see. Benjen, take him to the recruits' barracks. Tomorrow his education begins. The recruits' barracks smell of unwashed men and old straw. Jaime finds himself assigned to a narrow bunk between a poacher from the Riverlands and a deserter from Tywin's army. Both men eye him with mixtures of suspicion and curiosity. "Bloody hell," the deserter mutters. "Sharing quarters with a bloody knight?" "Former knight," Jaime corrects. "I'm a recruit now, same as you." "Same as us." The poacher spits into the rushes. "Don't think you're special here, lordling. Black cloaks make all men equal." Jaime sets his pack on the thin mattress that will be his bed for months to come. The accommodations compare poorly to his chambers in the Red Keep, but he finds no regret in the change. That night, he lies awake, listening to the sounds of Castle Black. Wind howls across the wall's face, while guards call challenges from the battlements. Somewhere in the distance, a wolf howls in answer. The north has its own song, harsh and beautiful, and utterly different from the music of King's Landing. Dawn comes early and cold. Jaime wakes to the sound of a horn calling all recruits to training. He dresses quickly in the simple black wool provided by the Night's Watch, noting how the rough fabric scratches against skin, accustomed to silk and finest cotton. The training yard occupies a large courtyard surrounded by practice posts and weapon racks. 24 men of various ages gather in loose formation, their breath steaming in the morning air. Some look like fighters, hard men with scars and calloused hands. Others appear soft and frightened, criminals choosing the wall over the headsman's block. Alliser Thorne emerges from the armory like a storm cloud given human form. The master-at-arms wears black mail over black wool, and his face shows the weathered cruelty of a man who has survived too many winters and learned to enjoy others' suffering. "Look what the ravens dragged in," Thorne announces, his voice carrying across the yard. "Fresh meat for the grinder. Some of you think you're warriors. Some think you're better than your fellows. I'm here to teach you different." His eyes fix on Jaime like a hawk spotting prey. "Ah, and what have we here? Sir Jaime Lannister, the Kingslayer himself. Tell me, Sir Jaime, what brings a knight of the King's Guard to seek brotherhood among thieves and murderers?" "The same thing that brings any man to the wall, sir, a desire to serve." "Sir," Thorne's laugh cuts like broken glass. "There are no sirs here, boy, only brothers and recruits. You're Jaime nothing now, until you take your vows." The insult lands like a slap, but Jaime keeps his face neutral. He has expected this treatment, and resolved to endure it. "As you say, Sir Alliser." "Good. At least you can listen. Now let's see if you can fight without your pretty white cloak." The next hour passes in brutal education. Thorne pairs Jaime with the largest recruit, a hulking blacksmith from the Westerlands, who swings a practice sword like a tree trunk. The man has strength but no technique. Jaime disarms him within moments. "Lucky strike," Thorne observes. "Try again." 3 more opponents follow. Jaime defeats each with growing confidence, his years of training and natural ability overcoming their crude attacks. Around the yard, other recruits stop their own practice to watch. "Enough," Thorne calls finally. "So the lion has claws. Let's see how they fare against a real opponent." Thorne takes up a practice sword and circles Jaime like a predator. The master-at-arms moves with the deadly grace of a man who has killed many enemies and learned from each encounter. They clash in the center of the yard. Thorne's blade moves like lightning, seeking gaps in Jaime's defense. The former Kingsguard finds himself pressed harder than he has been in years. Thorne fights dirty, using elbows and pommel strikes and footwork designed to trip and unbalance. The bout ends when Thorn's blade touches Jaime's throat. The master-at-arms smiles without warmth. Not bad for a pretty knight, but technique means nothing if you're dead. Here's your first lesson. The enemy doesn't care about your reputation. He cares about killing you and keeping himself alive. Training continues for weeks. Jaime learns to stable horses, mend weapons, and perform the dozen mundane tasks that keep Castle Black functioning. His hands blister from unaccustomed labor. His back aches from sleeping on thin mattresses. His pride suffers daily humiliation as Thorn finds new ways to humble him before the other recruits. But slowly, grudgingly, he earns respect. When a recruit from King's Landing struggles with sword work, Jaime helps him improve his stance. When supplies run low, he contributes gold from Tyrion's parting gift. When wildlings raid a village beyond the wall, he volunteers for the patrol that rides to investigate. The ranging proves his true test. Benjen leads 8 men north of the wall into the haunted forest, following tracks left by wildling raiders. The forest feels different than the woods of the south. Older, wilder, full of shadows that move without wind to stir them. Stay close, Benjen warns as they ride through stands of sentinel trees. The forest plays tricks on men's minds. More than one ranger has gotten lost and never found his way back. They find the wildling camp 2 days north of the wall. 15 men and women huddle around a dying fire, their faces painted with mud and ash. They wear furs and leather, and their weapons show the crude craftsmanship of a people without forge masters. "Surrender," Benjen calls out in the old tongue. "Come peacefully, and you won't be harmed." The wildlings' answer comes in the form of arrows and spears. Battle erupts across the small clearing as rangers fight desperately against superior numbers. Jaime finds himself pressed by 2 wildlings armed with stone axes. They attack with the fury of cornered animals, their painted faces terrible in the afternoon light. His sword work, refined by years of training in castle yards, adapts quickly to this brutal reality. A scream draws his attention. Hal, a young recruit from White Harbor, falls with a spear in his shoulder. A wildling raises a stone axe to finish him. Jaime moves without thinking. His blade takes the wildling in the chest, opening him from collarbone to ribs. Blood sprays across the frozen ground as the man falls. The second wildling hesitates, and Jaime's backhanded cut opens his throat. The fight ends quickly after that. The surviving wildlings flee into the deep forest, while the rangers tend their wounded. Hal lives, though he'll carry scars from the spear thrust. "Well done," Benjen says, as they prepare the dead for burning. "You saved Hal's life. Any man would have done the same. No, any man might have tried. You succeeded because you didn't hesitate." Benjen's grey eyes show new respect. That's the mark of a true ranger. They return to Castle Black with 1 wounded man and a dozen wildling dead. Word of Jaime's actions spreads quickly through the castle. The man who was once Sir Jaime Kingslayer begins to earn a different reputation. A raven arrives from King's Landing a fortnight later. Jaime reads Tyrion's letter in the privacy of the recruits' barracks, noting how his brother's usually cheerful tone carries undertones of worry. "Brother," the letter begins, "your departure has created more chaos than you might have intended. Father rages daily about your betrayal, while Cersei grows more erratic with each passing day. The court watches our family's disintegration with barely concealed glee. Robert drinks more heavily and trusts Lannisters less. I fear your absence has weakened our position more than your presence ever could have." Jaime folds the letter and stares out the barracks window at the wall's vast face. In King's Landing, his family deals with the consequences of his choice. Here at the world's end, he learns what it means to serve without expectation of reward. The next morning brings the ceremony he has waited for since leaving the capital. Lord Commander Mormont gathers the recruits who have completed their training in the castle's godswood. The heart tree here is smaller than Winterfell's, but its carved face shows the same ancient sorrow. 7 men kneel before the weirwood as Mormont reads the ancient words of the Night's Watch oath. Jaime feels the weight of each line as it binds him to this new life. "Hear my words and bear witness to my vow," he speaks, along with his brothers. "Night gathers, and now my watch begins. It shall not end until my death. I shall take no wife, hold no lands, father no children." The words strip away everything he was. Jaime Lannister dies in this moment, and a brother of the Night's Watch is born. "I shall wear no crowns and win no glory. I shall live and die at my post. I am the sword in the darkness. I am the watcher on the walls. I am the shield that guards the realms of men. I pledge my life and honor to the Night's Watch, for this night and all the nights to come." "Rise," Mormont commands. "Rise, brothers of the Night's Watch." Jaime stands with the others, feeling something settle in his chest that has been restless for 17 years. He is no longer a Lannister or a knight or a man trapped by family obligations. He is simply a brother among brothers, sworn to protect the realm from whatever darkness waits beyond the wall. Later that day, Mormont assigns the new brothers to their orders. Most join the stewards or builders, but Jaime finds himself called to serve among the rangers. "You've proven yourself useful with a sword," Mormont explains. "Benjen tells me you saved Hal's life on ranging. We need experienced fighters to patrol beyond the wall. I'm honored by the assignment, Lord Commander. Don't be honored yet. Wait until you've survived your first winter. Then you can decide if honor matters more than frozen toes." As his first duty, Jaime is assigned to train new recruits in sword work. The irony is not lost on him. The man who broke his most sacred oath now teaches others to honor theirs. He stands in the training yard as evening approaches, watching recruits practice basic forms with wooden swords. Some show promise. Others will likely die quickly if they face real enemies. All of them look to him for guidance, and he finds satisfaction in their improvement. The sun sets behind the wall, casting the ancient ice in shades of gold and crimson. Night gathers, and Jaime Lannister begins his watch. For the first time in his life, he serves something greater than family ambition or personal desire. The wall stands eternal, and he stands with it. The Raven arrives on a grey morning, when frost covers Castle Black's battlements like silver lace. Maester Aemon breaks the seal with gnarled fingers, his blind eyes turning toward the parchment, as if he could divine its contents through touch alone. His face grows grave as he reads. "Brothers," the ancient Maester calls, his voice carrying across the common hall where men break their fast on black bread and salted pork. News from the capital. Conversations die as rangers and stewards turn toward the high table. Even the kitchen servants pause their work to listen. Ravens from King's Landing rarely bring good tidings to the wall. "King Robert is dead," Aemon announces simply, "killed by a boar while hunting in the Kingswood." The hall erupts in shocked murmurs. Men cross themselves while others stare into their bowls as if seeking answers in cold porridge. Kings die, but the news still shakes those sworn to serve the realm. Jaime feels the words hit like a sword thrust. Robert Baratheon, who laughed and drank and ruled with casual authority, dead at 36. The man who granted his release from the Kingsguard, who allowed him to choose this path, silenced forever by a wild beast's tusks. "Prince Joffrey has been crowned king," Aemon continues reading. "Lord Eddard Stark has been arrested for treason. The realm stirs toward war." This news cuts deeper. Ned Stark, who showed him unexpected understanding at Winterfell, now branded a traitor and imprisoned. The man who spoke of honor and impossible choices faces the executioner's block. Lord Commander Mormont stands heavily. "Brothers, these events concern the realm we're sworn to protect, but our duty remains unchanged. We watch, we guard, we hold the wall against what comes from the north." He looks directly at Jaime. "Personal loyalties must not interfere with sworn obligations." The warning lands like a challenge. Jaime nods, understanding, even as guilt gnaws at his stomach. His family faces crisis, while he stands powerless to help, bound by vows he chose freely, but feels keenly now. After the meal, Jaime walks Castle Black's walls alone. The wall stretches endlessly east and west, its ancient ice gleaming in pale sunlight. Beyond its barrier lies the haunted forest, where wildlings roam and older things stir. Here at the world's end, the games of kings seem distant as stars. A commotion at the main gate draws his attention. Riders approach from the south, their horses lathered with sweat despite the cold. Black cloaks mark them as Night's Watch, but they escort others, men in rich furs and fine leather, who clearly come from warmer lands. "Open the gates," calls the lead rider. "Benjen Stark returns with guests." The gates swing wide to admit a party of 12 men. Benjen leads them, his face grim beneath his black hood. Behind him rides a figure that makes Jaime's heart leap. Jon Snow, wearing the black wool of the Night's Watch, but moving with the uncertain air of a new recruit. And beside Jon, bouncing in his saddle despite his small stature, rides Tyrion Lannister. "Brother," Tyrion's voice carries across the courtyard as he spots Jaime on the walls. "You're a sight for sore eyes." Jaime hurries down from the battlements as the party dismounts. Jon Snow looks older than his 14 years, his bastard's face marked by the weight of recent events. He nods respectfully to Jaime, uncertainty flickering in his grey eyes. "Jon Snow," Jaime says warmly. "Welcome to the Wall, though I suspect your reasons for coming are darker than mine were." "Everything has changed," Jon replies quietly. "Everything we thought we knew about honor and family and duty." Tyrion approaches with his characteristic grin, though Jaime notices strain around his mismatched eyes. "Well, brother, you certainly chose an interesting time to develop a conscience." They embrace in the courtyard while curious brothers watch. Tyrion feels smaller than Jaime remembers, as if recent events have diminished him despite his clever words. "Your timing was either perfect or terrible," Tyrion continues, depending on one's perspective. "What's happened? The Raven brought only bare facts." "Then let me fill the gaps. Our dear sister has been busy since your departure. Very busy indeed." They retire to Jaime's quarters in the Rangers' barracks, a small chamber that feels cramped with 3 men inside. Jon takes the single chair while Jaime and Tyrion sit on the narrow bed. Through the window, the wall looms like a frozen giant. "Begin at the beginning," Jaime says. "The beginning?" Tyrion pours wine from a flask, good wine from the south that tastes like luxury after weeks of Castle Black's sour ale. "The beginning was your dramatic exit from the capital. That created complications." "What kind of complications?" "The kind where Cersei panicked and made increasingly desperate decisions. Without your protection, she grew paranoid about threats to the children. She saw enemies in every shadow and plots behind every smile." Jon Snow listens silently, his young face troubled by adult intrigues he's only beginning to understand. "Meanwhile," Tyrion continues, "Ned Stark proved even more honorable than reputation suggested. He investigated the children's parentage with typical northern thoroughness, found several people willing to discuss royal bloodlines and the remarkable consistency of Baratheon features." Jaime's stomach clenches. He discovered the truth. Oh yes, all of it. 3 golden-haired children in a family known for black hair and blue eyes. The mathematical impossibility became quite clear to his mathematical mind. And then? Then Robert died. Conveniently, some might say, though I suspect the boar acted without political motivation. Tyrion's voice grows dark. Cersei moved quickly to secure Joffrey's succession, had Robert's bastards killed, arrested anyone who questioned the new king's legitimacy. Including Ned? Including Ned, our nephew, your son, branded the Honorable Ned Stark a traitor and ordered his execution. The words hit like physical blows. Jaime stands and paces the small chamber, his mind reeling from the implications. "She wouldn't dare. The North won't stand for Ned's murder." The north already moves, Jon Snow speaks for the first time since entering the room. Robb has called the banners. 20,000 men march south to free our father. 20,000. Tyrion whistles softly. Civil war, then. The Starks and their allies against the crown. Father will have to choose sides. He's already chosen, Jaime says bitterly. Tywin Lannister will support his grandson's claim, regardless of how illegitimate it might be. A knock interrupts their conversation. A steward enters with a sealed letter, bearing the Lannister crimson seal. For Jaime Lannister, from the capital. Jaime recognizes Cersei's handwriting on the parchment. Her words burn across the page like acid. Jaime, the letter begins. See what your honor has cost us. Father moves west to secure the riverlands. Robb Stark marches south with northern steel and northern fury. Stannis gathers ships at Dragonstone, while Renly plays at king in the Reach. The realm bleeds, while you play at honor among criminals and bastards. The letter grows more desperate with each line. Come home. The Night's Watch has served its purpose in teaching you humility. Your family needs you now more than ever. Your children need their father, even if they cannot know the truth. I need you, Jaime. I need my other half. Without you, I am incomplete. Everything we built crumbles without your sword to defend it. Joffrey is king, but barely more than a boy. Tyrion plays clever games while serious men make war. Only you can hold our family together in these dark times. Your vows to the Night's Watch mean nothing compared to blood. Come home before it's too late, before we lose everything that matters. The letter is signed with a single word. Cersei. Jaime crushes the parchment in his fist, feeling the weight of old chains trying to drag him back to King's Landing. The sister who shaped his life, who gave meaning to his existence for so many years, calls him home with words of need and desperation. Bad news? Tyrion observes. Cersei wants me to abandon my vows and return south. And will you? The question hangs in the cold air like a blade. Jon Snow watches with interest, perhaps wondering if all men struggle with impossible choices between honor and family. No, Jaime says finally. I swore an oath here, for this night and all the nights to come. Even with war threatening to tear the realm apart, even with your family facing destruction. Especially then. Jaime moves to the window and stares up at the wall's vast face. I spent 17 years enabling their lies, protecting their secrets, making their sins possible. My presence in King's Landing helped create this crisis. My absence might be the only honest thing I can offer. Noble sentiment, Tyrion says. But nobility doesn't win wars. Swords do. And you have one of the finest sword arms in Westeros, which now serves a different cause. A second knock interrupts them. This time Lord Commander Mormont himself enters, his weathered face grave with new concerns. Forgive the intrusion. Jon Snow, you're expected in my chambers for assignment to duties. Tyrion Lannister, you're welcome at Castle Black, as long as courtesy demands. His eyes fix on Jaime. Brother, I would speak with you privately. Tyrion and Jon file out, leaving Jaime alone with the old bear. Mormont settles heavily on the chair, his dark eyes studying Jaime's face. Troubled by news from the south? Troubled by the knowledge that my family faces war while I stand safely beyond reach. Safely? Mormont laughs grimly. Brother, there's no safety at the wall. Only different dangers than those found in the warm lands. But I understand the struggle. Every brother faces it eventually. The moment when the realm tears itself apart, and we must choose between personal loyalty and sworn duty. How do others manage it? Some break, they desert, flee south to die in wars that have nothing to do with the Watch. Others grow hard, cutting themselves off from all feeling. A few find wisdom in understanding that the wall protects something larger than any one kingdom or family. Mormont stands and moves to the window. Tell me, brother, what protects the realm if we abandon our posts? Who guards against the darkness beyond the wall if we chase after southern politics? You're saying the Night's Watch matters more than family? I'm saying the Night's Watch exists because family loyalties aren't enough, because someone must stand guard while others pursue their personal interests. Mormont's voice grows harder. The realm will survive this war, whichever king emerges victorious. But if we fail in our duty here, if we let the darkness grow unchecked while we chase southern shadows, then no king will matter. The wisdom in those words settles over Jaime like a cold wind. The Night's Watch stands apart from the Game of Thrones because someone must. Someone must think beyond immediate family concerns to the larger threats that gather in the night. The hardest part of our vows, Mormont continues, is when the realm tears itself apart and we must remain steady. When every instinct screams to abandon our posts and fight for our blood. That's when we prove whether we truly serve something greater than ourselves. That evening, Jaime finds Jon Snow in Castle Black's small godswood. The bastard kneels before a heart tree, even smaller than Winterfell's, his young face troubled by the weight of recent events. Praying for your father? Jon looks up with eyes that seem older than his 14 years. Praying for wisdom. Everything I believed about honor and family has been shattered. Father lies in a dungeon while my brother marches to war. And I'm here, sworn to remain neutral while my blood spills. It's not easy, Jaime agrees, settling beside him on the frozen ground. I got a letter from my sister today. She begged me to come home, to abandon my vows and fight for our family. What did you tell her? Nothing yet. But I know what I must tell her. Jaime stares at the heart tree's carved face. I must tell her that some choices, once made, cannot be unmade. That some vows matter more than blood. Even when it means watching family members suffer. Especially then. The Night's Watch exists because family loyalty isn't enough to protect the realm. Someone must stand apart from the game, must serve something larger than personal interest. They sit in silence for long moments, two men bound by vows to remain neutral while the world burns around them. Finally, Jon speaks again. Will you help me honor my obligations? When the war news grows worse, when every raven brings word of death and defeat, will you help me remember why we're here? If you'll do the same for me. We're both outcasts in our own ways. You by birth, me by choice. Perhaps that makes us stronger. Perhaps that's why we're here. They clasp hands before the heart tree, swearing informal vows to support each other through whatever trials come. Two bastards, one by birth, one by choice, finding brotherhood in shared isolation. A raven's harsh cry breaks the moment. Another bird from the south, bringing fresh news of war and death. Neither man moves to read it immediately. Whatever it contains can wait until morning. But when morning comes, the news proves worse than either imagined. Ned Stark is dead, executed by order of King Joffrey before thousands of witnesses in the Great Sept of Baelor. The honorable man who showed Jaime understanding at Winterfell has paid the price for his integrity. The realm convulses in response. Robb Stark, now called king in the north, marches south with vengeance in his heart. Stannis Baratheon declares himself the rightful king from Dragonstone. Renly Baratheon claims the crown from Highgarden. The War of the Five Kings begins in earnest. Jaime stands on Castle Black's walls and watches smoke rise from signal fires in the distance. The realm burns while he remains at his post, honor-bound to watch from afar. He has chosen this isolation, this powerlessness, this commitment to something larger than family or politics. For the first time since taking the Black, he truly understands what sacrifice means. The wall stands eternal, and he stands with it while the world tears itself apart. There can be no going back now. The Game of Thrones continues without him, as it must. His watch has begun, and it will not end until his death. Ravens arrive daily now, black wings bearing tidings of war and death from the warm lands. Maester Aemon's chamber overflows with scrolls detailing battles won and lost, armies marching and cities burning. The realm convulses in civil war, while the Night's Watch maintains its ancient vigil. Jaime stands in the rookery as another raven settles on the perch, its message cylinder bearing the seal of House Lannister. Aemon breaks the wax with trembling fingers, his blind eyes turning toward the parchment, as if sight might return through sheer will. "More news from the Riverlands," the ancient Maester says quietly. "Lord Tywin has crossed the Red Fork with 30,000 men. The Riverlands burn from the Trident to the Blackwater. And Robb Stark, the young wolf, wins victory after victory. The Battle of the Whispering Wood saw 2,000 Westermen dead or captured. Your father's army retreats toward Harrenhal." The words hit like hammer blows. Jaime pictures the Whispering Wood where he once hunted with Robert, now soaked with Lannister blood. In another life, he might have commanded that doomed force. His absence has created a void that Tywin fills poorly with lesser commanders. "Who led our van at the Whispering Wood?" Jaime asks. Aemon consults the scroll. "Sir Forley Prester, captured along with most of his knights." Jaime closes his eyes. Forley is brave but predictable, lacking the tactical flexibility needed against Stark cunning. With Jaime commanding, that battle might have ended differently. "There's more," Aemon continues. "Young Lord Stark has been proclaimed king in the north. The Riverlands and the Vale declare for him. Your brother Tyrion was captured by Lady Stark but later released." "Released? Why?" The scroll doesn't say. Only that he was freed and has returned to King's Landing. Winter wind howls through the rookery's open windows, carrying the scent of snow and distant storms. Below in the courtyard, rangers prepare for the day's patrol beyond the wall. Their duties continue regardless of southern politics. "My lord," Aemon says gently, "the war news troubles you." "It troubles me that men die because I chose duty over family loyalty. Had you remained, you would still be trapped in the web of lies that created this war. Perhaps your absence serves a greater purpose than your presence ever could." Lord Commander Mormont appears in the rookery doorway, his weathered face grim with purpose. "Brother Jaime, prepare for ranging. We march within the hour." "Where to, Lord Commander?" "North. Reports suggest wildlings mass beyond the Milkwater. Mance Rayder gathers his people for some great purpose. We need to know his intentions." Jaime nods, understanding. The Night's Watch has larger concerns than southern wars. Whatever schemes kings pursue, the true enemy waits beyond the wall. The ranging party numbers 40 men, rangers, hunters, and trackers chosen for their experience beyond the wall. Jaime rides with the vanguard, his destrier's breath steaming in the cold air. Behind him, pack horses carry supplies for a fortnight's journey into the haunted forest. Jon Snow rides beside him, the bastard's young face serious with newfound responsibility. 3 months at Castle Black have hardened him, replacing the uncertain boy with someone approaching a man. His direwolf ghost pads silently through the snow, white fur making him nearly invisible against the drifts. "First long ranging?" Jaime asks. "Yes, though I've been beyond the wall before, on shorter patrols." Jon's voice carries steady confidence. "What should I expect?" "Expect the unexpected. The forest changes men, makes them see things that aren't there, hear voices in the wind. Keep your wits sharp and trust your brothers." They pass through the tunnel beneath the wall, emerging into the vast wilderness beyond. The haunted forest stretches endlessly north, ancient trees standing like silent sentinels over secrets older than memory. Here dragons once flew, and the children of the forest worked their magic. Now only wildlings and darker things roam beneath the branches. The first day's march passes without incident. They follow game trails through stands of sentinel trees and oak, stopping frequently to check for signs of wildling passage. Rangers scout ahead, while the main force maintains steady progress northward. Camp that night brings unwelcome visitors. A dozen men approach the Rangers' fire under a flag of peace, deserters from southern armies seeking refuge with the Night's Watch. Their leader, a grizzled sergeant with Lannister colours still visible on his torn surcoat, recognizes Jaime immediately. "Sir Jaime Lannister," the man says wonderingly. "We heard you'd taken the Black, but seeing you here—" He shakes his head. "Strange times when lions serve crows." "Strange times indeed," Jaime agrees. "What brings you to the wall?" "Same thing that brings most men. Nowhere else to run." The sergeant spits into the fire, sending sparks flying. "Your father's war has no place for men with conscience." "Explain." "Lord Tywin ordered the riverlands burned. Every village, every farm, every mill from River Run to Maidenpool. Said he'd teach the Starks the price of rebellion." The man's voice grows bitter. "We burned harvest stores while children watched, drove families from their homes in winter. Some of us couldn't stomach it anymore." Jon Snow speaks up. "You abandoned your oaths to avoid following orders." "What oaths?" "We swore to serve our lord, not butcher innocents. When orders become murder, honor demands resistance." Jaime feels the weight of those words. His father wages war with characteristic ruthlessness, caring nothing for the innocents caught between armies. The absence of his eldest son has perhaps made Tywin more brutal, not less. "Are there many like you?" Jaime asks. "Hundreds, maybe thousands. Men slip away from the armies nightly. Some head for the free cities. Others seek shelter with sellsword companies. A few find their way here." The deserters are fed and given places by the fire. Their stories of burning villages and slaughtered small folk weigh heavily on the Rangers. Even hardened men of the Night's Watch show distaste for such tactics. "Your father's methods haven't changed," Benjen observes quietly as they prepare for sleep. "He always preferred terror to honor. And now he wages war without restraint because his heir chose a different path." Jaime stares into the dying fire. "How many innocent deaths are on my hands for abandoning him? How many innocent deaths would be on your hands for helping him? Some choices have no clean answers." 3 days north of the wall, they encounter their first wildlings. A raiding party, 40 strong, attacks the Rangers at dawn, their painted faces terrible in the grey light. The battle erupts without warning as wildling arrows rain from the trees. "Form ranks!" Mormont shouts. "Shields up! Protect the horses!" Jaime draws his sword as wildlings charge from concealment. These are not the desperate refugees who occasionally approach the wall seeking shelter. These are warriors, hard men and fierce women who paint their faces with blood and fight like cornered wolves. A wildling champion swings a great axe toward Jaime's head. He ducks the blow and riposts, opening the man's throat with a precise cut. Blood sprays across the snow as the wildling falls. "Behind you!" Jon Snow's warning comes just in time. Jaime spins to parry a spear thrust, his blade deflecting the iron point. His riposte takes the spearman in the chest, punching through leather and bone. The fight rages for minutes that feel like hours. Wildlings press the Rangers hard, using superior numbers to compensate for inferior equipment. But discipline tells in the end. The Night's Watch fights as a unit, while the Wildlings battle as individuals. When the last attacker falls, 7 Rangers lie dead, and twice that number bear wounds. The Wildlings are annihilated. Those few who fled into the forest carry word of the encounter south. "Strip the bodies," Mormont orders grimly. "See what they carried. Look for signs of organization, of leadership. The wildling dead bear marks of tribal affiliation. scars and tattoos that identify their clans. More disturbing are the bronze torques some wear, symbols of allegiance to a greater authority than tribal chiefs. Mance raiders work, Benjen says quietly. The king beyond the wall binds the clans together. These weren't random raiders, they were scouts. Scouts for what? For what comes after. Mance doesn't gather armies to raid fishing villages. He has larger ambitions. They burn the dead and continue north, following wildling tracks toward the Milkwater. The signs grow more numerous with each mile. Campsites for hundreds, trails worn by thousands of feet, trees marked with symbols of gathering clans. At a burned steading, they find survivors. A family of free folk cowers in the ruins of their home, their faces marked by terror and starvation. The father approaches under a peace banner, his children hiding behind him. "Your Night's Watch," he says, in accented common tongue. "We need help." "What happened here?" Mormont asks. "Mance's people. They said all free folk must join the Great March south. Those who refused..." The man gestures at the smoking ruins. "They burned us out, took our food, said we could follow or die." How many follow Mance now? Thousands. Tens of thousands. Every clan from the Frostfangs to the Shivering Sea. He promises them the warm lands beyond the wall if they follow him south. This news strikes like a thunderbolt. A united wildling host hasn't threatened the wall in living memory. If Mance truly commands tens of thousands, the Night's Watch faces its greatest crisis in centuries. They take the survivors south toward Castle Black while continuing their patrol. The intelligence proves invaluable. Mance camps near the Fist of the First Men, gathering strength for an assault on the wall itself. "We need to warn Castle Black," Mormont decides. "This threat surpasses anything we've faced before." As they turn south, a horn blast echoes through the forest. 3 long calls. The signal for attack. Rangers appear from the trees, driving a dozen wildlings before them. But these wildlings flee toward the rangers, terror written on their painted faces. "Help us," one screams in broken common tongue. Dead things in the forest." Behind the fleeing wildlings comes something from nightmare. Figures in rotted furs and rusted mail shamble through the trees, their eyes blue as winter ice. They move with unnatural purpose, showing no fatigue, despite obvious wounds that should have killed them. "Whites," Mormont breathes. The others are moving again. The battle that follows defies all understanding of warfare. The dead feel no pain, show no fear, fight until their bodies are hewn apart. Swords that would kill living men merely slow these creatures. Only fire seems to truly destroy them. Jaime finds himself fighting beside Jon Snow against 3 whites that once were wildlings. His sword opens terrible wounds that would fell any mortal enemy. But the dead things continue attacking with relentless determination. "Fire!" Benjen shouts. Only fire stops them. Rangers with burning brands advance, while others retreat. The whites ignore the flames until touched by them, then burn like oil-soaked wood. The stench of burning flesh fills the forest as the dead are returned to proper death. When the last white falls to flame, the survivors count their losses. 5 rangers dead, 8 wounded, and a dozen horses killed. The wildlings they rescued speak of worse things in the deep forest. An army of the dead following masters cold as winter ice. The return to Castle Black becomes a running retreat. Every shadow might hide more whites. Every strange sound could herald another attack. They burn their own dead rather than risk them rising again. Castle Black receives them with relief and terror in equal measure. News of Mance raiders gathering sends shock through the Watch. Reports of whites and others beyond the wall carry implications too dark to fully comprehend. "The real war isn't in the south," Mormont tells the assembled brothers. "It's here. It's coming for us all." Ravens fly to every corner of the realm carrying warnings of the gathering storm. Kings may squabble over thrones, but the true enemy mass beyond the wall. The Night's Watch calls for aid, though few expect answers from lords consumed with their own wars. In the quiet of his chamber, Jaime reads the latest letter from King's Landing. Tyrion writes of court intrigue and family dysfunction, of Cersei's growing madness and Joffrey's cruelty. The capital burns with paranoia, while real darkness approaches from the north. The irony is exquisite, Tyrion observes in his letter. Father commands armies but lacks his finest general. Cersei rules but cannot trust anyone. Joffrey wears a crown but acts the part of tyrant rather than king. Your absence created a void none of us can fill. Meanwhile, Lady Stark released her mysterious prisoner, a knight captured at the Whispering Wood, whose identity was never confirmed. Some say he resembled you strongly. Perhaps in another tale, that prisoner was you. Perhaps your choice changed more than any of us imagined. Jaime sets down the letter and contemplates the strange paths of fate. In another world, he might have been Catelyn's captive, exchanged for her daughters, and eventually freed to face these same choices. Instead, he stands free at the wall, sworn to defend the realm against threats greater than any southern army. He requests permanent assignment to ranging duties. Lord Commander Mormont approves without hesitation. Experienced fighters are desperately needed beyond the wall. The decision feels right. While kings fight for crowns, he will stand guard against the darkness. That night, he dreams of golden lions burning in fields of ice and snow. He wakes with frost on his beard and the certainty that winter brings more than cold to the realms of men. The wall stands eternal, and he stands with it. The Game of Thrones continues in the south, but here at the world's end, a greater game begins. One where the stakes are not crowns or gold, but the very survival of everything men hold dear. His watch continues, and the real war waits just beyond the light of their fires. The great ranging assembles at dawn like a black river of men and horses flowing north from Castle Black. 300 rangers, the largest force the Night's Watch has fielded in living memory, march toward the haunted forest with grim purpose. Supply wagons creak under the weight of provisions, while pack horses carry everything needed for a moon's campaign beyond the wall. Lord Commander Mormont sits his destrier like a king reviewing his army. The old bear's weathered face shows no emotion, but his dark eyes burn with the intensity of a man who knows this may be the Night's Watch's final gamble. Around him, the best rangers of the watch prepare for whatever waits in the wilderness. Jaime checks his gear one final time. Sword sharp, armor clean, supplies secure. Beside him, Jon Snow adjusts Ghost's collar while the massive direwolf pants in the cold air. The bastard has grown into his role as ranger, his young face marked by experience beyond his years. Nervous? Jaime asks. Terrified, Jon admits, but that's probably wise, given where we're going. The column moves through the tunnel beneath the wall, emerging into the vast wilderness beyond. The haunted forest stretches endlessly north, ancient trees standing sentinel over secrets older than the Seven Kingdoms. Here the children of the forest once danced beneath heart trees. Now only darkness moves between the branches. Keep your eyes sharp, Benjen warns as they ride through the first stands of oak and ash. The forest has changed since last we ranged this far north. The very air feels different. He speaks truth. The forest carries an unnatural stillness, as if every bird and beast has fled south. Even the wind seems muted, refusing to stir the branches overhead. Only the sound of hooves and creaking leather breaks the oppressive silence. By the second day, they discover signs of mass migration. Entire wildling settlements stand empty, their inhabitants vanished as completely as summer snow. Cookfires cold for weeks, belongings scattered as if abandoned in haste, Children's toys lying forgotten in the mud. Where did they go? Jon wonders, as they explore a village that once housed hundreds. South, Benjen replies grimly, following the king beyond the wall toward the wall itself. They capture a wildling scout on the third day, a grizzled man with facial tattoos who speaks broken common tongue. Under questioning, his words paint a terrifying picture of what waits ahead. Mance Rayder, the prisoner says, spitting blood from his broken teeth. The king beyond the wall, he unites all clans, all tribes, the Hornfoots and the Ice River clans, the people of the frozen shore, and the caves beneath the Frostfangs. How many follow him? Mormont demands. All of them. Every free folk north of your wall. 100,000, maybe more. They march south to find safety in your warm lands. 100,000. The number strikes like a thunderbolt. The largest army ever assembled in the north. Larger than any force the Seven Kingdoms could field, all moving toward the wall, with winter at their backs. Jaime's strategic mind immediately grasps the implications. What drives such a migration? Wildlings have lived beyond the wall for thousands of years. Why abandon their homes now? The prisoner's eyes widen with primal fear. The cold winds blow, the white shadows walk. The dead wake hungry in the woods. We run or we join them. Join them how? Jon presses. With blue eyes and black hands, with no breath in dead lungs, the others come again, and all who die serve them. The words chill more than winter wind. Ancient enemies stir beyond the far north, driving the wildlings south like sheep before wolves. But if the tales prove true, the wildlings face impossible choices: stand and die, or flee toward the wall they've always considered their greatest enemy. The ranging continues toward the Fist of the First Men, an ancient hill crowned with rings of stone. The fortress built by the First Men commands the surrounding landscape, offering views for leagues in every direction. If Mance camps nearby, they'll spot his host from the heights. But as they climb the Fist's ancient slopes, they discover they're not the first to reach the summit. The ground shows signs of recent occupation: fire pits, scattered bones, and stranger things that make seasoned rangers uneasy. "Look at this!" Jon calls from near the hill's center. "These stones, they're arranged deliberately. Ancient symbols spiral outward from a central point, carved into rocks older than recorded history. The markings seem to shift in peripheral vision, creating patterns that hurt to observe directly. Even Ghost refuses to approach the stone circle, the massive dire wolf growling low in his throat. "First Men work," Benjen says uncertainly. "Or maybe older. Before the Andals, before the children of the forest, when stranger things walked the earth." They make camp within the Fist's protective rings, setting sentries and building fires against the gathering dusk. The night brings no peace. Unnatural sounds echo from the forest below. Howls that might be wolves, cries that might be wind, and underneath it all, something that sounds almost like whispering voices. Jaime stands the midnight watch with Gren, a young ranger from the Gift. The fire burns low between them, while darkness presses close on all sides. Beyond the light, shapes seem to move between the trees. "Do you see that?" Gren whispers, pointing toward the forest edge. "Something's moving down there." Jaime follows his gaze and feels ice form in his veins. Pale figures emerge from the tree line, their movements too fluid for living men. They wear rotted furs and rusted mail, but their eyes burn with cold blue light. "Whites," Jaime breathes. "Wake the camp. Enemy attack." The horn blast that follows sends 3 long calls echoing across the Fist. Rangers stumble from their bedrolls as the army of the dead climbs toward their fires. Hundreds of whites pour from the forest, moving with terrible purpose through the darkness. "Form squares," Mormont roars. "Fire arrows. Burn everything that moves." The battle that follows defies every principle of warfare Jaime knows. The dead feel no pain, show no fear, Fight until their bodies are hewn apart. Swords that would kill any living enemy merely slow these nightmare creatures. Only fire seems to truly destroy them. Jaime finds himself back to back with Jon Snow as whites press their position. His blade opens terrible wounds that would fell any mortal foe, but the dead things continue attacking with relentless determination. Beside him, Jon's Valyrian steel sword seems to bite deeper than normal steel, each cut dropping whites permanently. "The swords!" Jon shouts over the chaos. "Valyrian steel kills them clean!" But there are too few Valyrian blades, and too many enemies. The dead surge forward in waves, overwhelming ranger positions through sheer numbers. Men scream as cold hands drag them down into the press of corpses. Ed Tollett, a ranger Jaime has come to respect, falls with a dozen wounds. Jaime watches in horror as the man's eyes flutter open moments later, now burning with blue fire. The friend, who joked over countless meals, rises with black blood on his lips, reaching for his former brothers with grasping fingers. "Ed," Jaime whispers, "gods, what have they done to you?" The creature that was Ed Tollett lunges forward, hands seeking Jaime's throat. Training takes over. His sword removes the head in a single stroke. But as the body falls, Jaime knows he's just killed a friend, twice over. "Burn him!" Benjen shouts, thrusting a torch into Jaime's hand. "Burn them all, or they'll rise again!" Jaime sets fire to Ed's corpse, watching flames consume what was once a decent man who made bad jokes and shared his rations freely. The stench of burning flesh fills the air as similar pyres ignite across the fist. The retreat begins as dawn approaches. The dead number in the thousands now, fallen rangers rising to join their ranks. Mormont orders a fighting withdrawal down the fist's southern slopes, while rangers burn everything behind them. Ghost leads the survivors through safe paths, the dire wolf's supernatural senses guiding them away from the worst concentrations of whites. The massive wolf seems to know which trails remain clear, which valleys hide ambushes of the dead. Jaime commands the rearguard, his sword cutting down whites that venture too close to the fleeing column. His tactical training adapts to this new kind of warfare. Fire stops them permanently, decapitation slows them, and dismemberment scatters them long enough for escape. "Keep moving," he shouts to rangers who hesitate to help fallen comrades. "The dead are gone. Save the living." A dozen rangers owe their lives to his quick thinking as he leads them through a gap in the white lines. His reputation as the Kingslayer transforms into something else, the ranger who held the line while brothers escaped. The running battle continues for 3 days as they flee south toward the wall. Every night brings fresh attacks as more dead join the pursuing host. The forest itself seems turned against them, with whites emerging from every shadow. Castle Black's walls rise before them like salvation itself. The survivors stumble through the gates, barely 200 men from the 300 who marched north. Behind them, smoke rises from the burning forest as the dead consume everything in their path. "Sound the horn," Mormont orders wearily. 3 blasts. Let everyone know what comes. The great horn's call echoes across the wall 3 times, its deep note carrying to every castle and tower. For the first time in centuries, the signal for others sounds from Castle Black's walls. Jaime collapses in the common hall, exhaustion weighing his limbs like lead. Around him, survivors tend wounds and count the missing. The great ranging has ended in catastrophe, revealing threats beyond the Night's Watch's ability to face alone. A raven waits with letters from the south. Jaime breaks the seal on Tyrion's latest message, noting how his brother's usually cheerful tone carries undertones of weariness. "Brother," the letter begins, "Stannis has been defeated at the Blackwater. Father is now Hand of the King, the reward for his victory. Cersei rules through Joffrey's name, while Tywin controls the realm's armies. The war goes well for our family, though I wonder what victory means when we've lost so much else. Young Lord Stark remains in rebellion, though his position grows more desperate with each passing day. Father masses armies in the west, While southern lords bend the knee to Joffrey's crown, the realm stabilizes under Lannister rule, for better or worse. I think often of your choice to leave all this behind. At the time, it seemed like madness. Now, watching the corruption spread through everything we touch, I wonder if you were the wisest of us all. Jaime sets down the letter and stares at the common hall's ceiling. In the south, his family consolidates power through fire and blood. Here at the wall, the real enemy masses for war against all living things. The contrast could not be sharper. The real enemy comes from the north, he tells the assembled survivors. Everything else is politics. This is survival. Maester Aemon sends ravens to every corner of Westeros, carrying word of the others' return. Most lords will dismiss such tales as Night's Watch, desperation for supplies and men. But the truth remains. Winter comes, and with it, enemies older than memory. That night, Jaime dreams of blue eyes and black hands, of friends who rise with cold fire in their stare. He wakes with frost on his blankets and the certainty that the dead do not rest easy. The wall stands against the darkness, but for how long? How many men can stand against an army that grows with every fallen foe? How do you defeat enemies who turn your own dead against you? These questions have no easy answers. But as the sun rises over Castle Black, Jaime knows one thing with absolute certainty. He chose the right war. While kings fight for crowns in the south, he stands guard against the extinction of everything warm and living. His watch continues, and the real war has only just begun. The news arrives with the morning ravens, black wings bearing tidings that shake Castle Black to its foundations. Maester Aemon reads the dispatch with trembling hands, his ancient face growing pale as parchment. "Brothers," the old master announces to the assembled garrison, "Lord Commander Mormont is dead." The words fall like hammer blows on shocked silence. The old bear, who led them safely through the raging disaster, who commanded the Night's Watch for years beyond count, cut down by his own men during the retreat from the haunted forest. "Mutiny at Craster's Keep," Aemon continues, his voice heavy with grief. "Brothers turned against brothers in madness and fear. The Lord Commander fell defending the sacred laws of hospitality." Jaime feels the loss like a physical wound. Mormont treated him fairly despite his past, guided him toward understanding of duty beyond personal ambition. The man who saw potential in the Kingslayer now lies dead because frightened men chose betrayal over honor. "We must choose a new Lord Commander," Sir Alistair Thorne declares, his scarred face showing no grief for Mormont's passing. "The Watch cannot function without leadership." "Aye," agrees Janos Slynt, the former commander of the City Watch who came north under dubious circumstances. "We need a man of experience, someone who understands the realities of command." Both men eye the position with obvious hunger. Thorne has served at Castle Black for years, training countless recruits in the arts of war. Slynt brings experience from King's Landing, though his reputation remains clouded by accusations of corruption and cowardice. But as Jaime watches the assembled brothers debate succession, he notices younger rangers gathering around Jon Snow. The bastard has earned respect through competence and courage, proving himself in ranging beyond the wall. At 16, he seems impossibly young for such responsibility, yet his grey eyes hold the wisdom of someone who has faced impossible choices. "What do you think?" Jon asks Jaime privately after the assembly disperses. "Should I stand for election? Do you want the responsibility? The weight of every decision, every death that follows?" "No, but wanting and needing are different things. The Watch needs leadership that understands what we face beyond the wall. Thorne sees only wildlings as enemies. Slynt thinks political maneuvering solves everything. And you see the real threat. I see what we all saw at the Fist, the dead who don't stay dead, the cold that kills more surely than any sword." Jon's voice carries certainty beyond his years. "We need to prepare for war against enemies that most men won't believe exist. The election takes place in Castle Black's common hall, with all sworn brothers casting votes. Thorne commands support from older rangers who remember his years of service. Slint appeals to stewards and builders with promises of better supplies and easier duties. But Jon Snow speaks of the greater threat, of the army of the dead that waits beyond the wall. His words resonate with men who survived the Great Ranging, who watched friends die and rise again with blue eyes burning. When the votes are counted, Jon Snow wins by a single ballot. The youngest Lord Commander in the Night's Watch's history takes command of an order facing its greatest crisis in millennia. "I'll need experienced advisors," Jon tells Jaime after the ceremony. "Men who understand both warfare and politics. Will you serve as First Ranger?" The promotion comes without fanfare, but its significance weighs heavily on Jaime's shoulders. First Ranger commands all scouts and patrols beyond the wall, responsible for intelligence gathering and forward defense. It's a position of trust that the former Kingslayer never expected to hold. "I'm honored by your confidence," Jaime replies. "But are you certain the brothers will follow someone with my reputation?" "They'll follow competence. They'll follow someone who proved himself when it mattered." Jon's voice carries the authority of command, despite his youth. "Besides, we don't have time for politics. Mance Rayder moves against us with numbers beyond anything we've faced before." Training becomes Jaime's primary focus as First Ranger. The wall's garrison numbers barely 600 men, many of them green recruits or criminals seeking refuge from southern justice. Against 100,000 wildlings, they need every advantage skill can provide. "Form ranks," Jaime shouts to a group of new recruits practicing in Castle Black's training yard. "Shield wall formation, lock shields and advance." The men stumble through basic maneuvers while Jaime corrects their stance and grip. These are not knights or professional soldiers. They're farmers and thieves, bastards and broken men who must learn warfare quickly or die slowly. "Remember," he tells them, "discipline wins battles, not individual heroics. Stay in formation, support your brothers, and trust your training." Among the recruits stands Gren, one of the survivors from the Great Ranging. The young man's face still bears scars from white claws, but his determination never wavers. "First Ranger," Gren says after training ends, "there's something you should see. Ravens from the south." The message waiting in Jon's chambers carries seals of House Lannister and House Frey. Jaime breaks them with steady hands, though his heart pounds as he reads the contents. The Red Wedding. The phrase burns across his mind like wildfire as details emerge from the parchment. Robb Stark and his mother Catelyn, murdered at the Twins during a wedding feast. The Northern army scattered, their king dead by treachery rather than honorable combat. "This isn't victory," Jaime whispers, his voice hollow with horror. "This is butchery." "Your family's work?" Jon asks quietly. "My father's work. Tywin orchestrated this, used Walder Frey's wounded pride to destroy his enemies through guest right violation." Jaime crumples the letter in his fist. He's won the war through the greatest dishonor imaginable. The implications cascade through his mind. The North, bereft of leadership, will submit to Lannister rule. The Riverlands, devastated by war, will accept peace at any price. Joffrey's throne stands secure, built on foundations of murdered honor. A second letter arrives the next day, this one bearing Cersei's personal seal. Her words burn with triumph and desperate affection. "Jaime," she writes, "the war is won. Father's strategies have crushed our enemies completely. Robb Stark lies dead, his rebellion ended, his supporters scattered. The realm bows to our family's power once more. Come home now. Your exile has lasted long enough, and we need you here to consolidate our victory. Joffrey requires protection from new threats, and I require companionship from the only man who truly understands me. Your place is with your family, not among criminals and outcasts at the world's end. The Night's Watch has taught you whatever lessons you sought. Now return to where you belong, to the power and position that await a Lannister of your abilities." Jaime reads the letter twice before composing his response. His words flow onto parchment like ice water, each line a deliberate rejection of everything he once held dear. "Sister," he writes, "congratulations on your victory, though I can take no pleasure in triumphs built on dishonor. Father may have won the war, but the cost will echo through history. You mistake my purpose here. I did not come to the wall to learn lessons or serve penance. I came to serve something greater than family ambition, greater than personal desire. The realm faces darker enemies than wolves and lions, enemies that make our political conflicts seem like children's games. My place is here, with brothers who understand duty beyond bloodlines. My watch continues until death, as I swore before gods and men. Do not write again, asking me to break vows I chose freely and honor completely. Give my love to the children, and tell them their uncle serves the realm in ways they may never understand." He seals the letter with his personal signet, the golden lion that once represented everything he was. Now it marks his final farewell to the life he abandoned for honor. Jon Snow proves himself a capable Lord Commander, despite his youth. He organizes Castle Black's defenses with military precision, assigns duties based on competence rather than seniority, and listens to experienced advisors while making his own decisions. "Mance Rayder approaches," Jon announces during a war council meeting. "Our scouts report his host camping 5 leagues north of the wall. The king beyond the wall has finally gathered his full strength." "How many?" asks Bowen Marsh, the chief steward. "Our best estimates suggest 90,000, perhaps more. Every wildling clan from the frozen shore to the Frostfangs marches under his banner." The numbers stagger, even experienced rangers. The largest army ever assembled in the north waits beyond the wall, united in purpose for the first time in living memory. "They'll attack within days," Jaime observes, studying maps of the wall's approaches. "Mance knows winter comes soon. He can't afford delay with so many mouths to feed." "Can we negotiate?" Jon asks. "Offer them passage through the wall in exchange for terms?" The Watch doesn't have authority to make such agreements. That requires royal command. "Then we fight." "Against those numbers?" Marsh shakes his head. "We have 600 men. They have 90,000. Mathematics alone dooms us." "Mathematics assumes they can all reach the wall at once," Jaime counters. "The approaches are narrow. We can force them to attack where we choose, use terrain to our advantage." "You're suggesting we meet them in the field?" "I'm suggesting we use every advantage available. Superior position, better weapons, disciplined tactics against their mob tactics." Jon listens carefully to all perspectives before making his decision. "We'll fight from the wall, use the height advantage and our few siege weapons to maximum effect, but I want options if they breach our defenses." "They won't breach anything if we do this right," Jaime says, with more confidence than he feels. That night, he volunteers for a mission that surprises everyone. "Let me parley with Mance Rayder. One ranger can approach under a peace banner without threatening anyone." "Why would you risk that?" Jon asks. "Because I want to understand what drives this migration. 100,000 people don't abandon their homes without cause." Jon considers the request before nodding approval. "Take care, Jaime. Whatever Mance was before becoming king, he's dangerous now." The next morning, Jaime rides north under the Night's Watch banner toward the wildling host. Their camp stretches across the landscape like a city made of tents and wagons, cooking fires sending smoke into the grey sky. Children play between the shelters, while warriors sharpen weapons for coming battle. Mance Rayder receives him in a pavilion marked with bones and furs, the traditional symbols of wildling kingship. The king beyond the wall appears older than Jaime expected, his red hair shot through with grey, but his dark eyes burn with intelligence and determination. "Jaime Lannister," Mance says without preamble. "The Kingslayer who became a crow. I heard stories of your choice, but didn't believe them until now. And I heard stories of a Night's Watch ranger who became a king. Perhaps we both surprised ourselves. Mance laughs, the sound carrying no humor. Surprised? Brother, I've been planning this for 20 years, ever since I saw what waits in the deep north, what comes with the winter winds. You speak of the others. I speak of extinction, of the end of everything warm and breathing if we don't act soon. Mance leans forward, his voice dropping to urgent whisper. You gave up everything for duty, Lannister. Crown and gold and family love. Why? Because some things matter more than personal desire, even if that desire includes seeing your loved ones again, especially then. Love that demands dishonor isn't love at all. Mance studies him with new respect. You understand sacrifice. Good. Then maybe you'll understand why I must lead my people south, even if it means war with the Night's Watch. Tell me. We're not your enemy, Crow. The cold is coming. The white shadows walk again in the far north, growing stronger with each village they claim. My people flee or join their ranks as mindless wights. Then fight them where you are. Don't run toward the wall like frightened sheep. With what army? With what weapons? Mance's voice grows bitter. The dead don't stay dead when the others touch them. Every man we lose becomes our enemy. Every battle won makes us weaker for the next. The truth hits Jaime like a physical blow. The wildlings don't attack the wall from aggression, but from desperation. They flee an enemy that grows stronger with every victory that turns their own dead against them. How long do we have? Until full winter comes? Maybe 2 years. Maybe less. Mance's eyes hold the weight of terrible knowledge. The others gather strength while the warm lands squabble over crowns. When they come south, your wall won't stop them. Nothing will. Jaime returns to Castle Black with intelligence that changes everything. The wildling host camps barely 5 leagues away, but their true enemy waits further north, patient as winter itself. We're preparing to fight the wrong war, he tells Jon privately. Mance's raider isn't our enemy. He's a refugee, leading other refugees toward the only safety he knows. And the real enemy? Comes with the snows, comes with death that doesn't end, and cold that kills everything it touches. That night, Jaime stands atop the wall and stares north toward the darkness. Somewhere beyond the horizon, ancient enemies stir from long slumber. The realm they threaten squabbles over politics, while extinction approaches on silent feet. His family rules in the south through dishonor and blood. Here at the world's end, he serves honor through duty and sacrifice. The contrast could not be starker, nor his choice more clear. Winter comes, and with it, the real war begins. The horn's blast echoes across Castle Black 3 times, the signal for attack. From the wall's heights, Jaime watches Mance Raider's host advance like a black tide across the frozen landscape. 90,000 wildlings surge toward the ancient barrier, their war cries piercing the morning air like the screams of hunting hawks. Positions! Jon Snow shouts from the wall's summit, his young voice carrying the authority of command. All rangers to the top! Defend the lifts! Below in the courtyard, Jaime draws his sword as the southern gate shudders under the impact of a massive battering ram. The oak and iron portal, built to withstand conventional armies, groans against forces beyond its design. Giants swing tree trunks like clubs, while mammoths charge with tusks longer than spears. Hold fast, Jaime calls to the 40 men assigned to the gate's defense. Let them break themselves against stone and steel. The gate explodes inward with a sound like thunder. Splinters fly like crossbow bolts, while wildlings pour through the breach in a screaming torrent. Spearwives with painted faces charge beside berserkers wearing bear skulls as helms. Behind them, lumber giants twice the height of men, their massive clubs sweeping defenders aside like wheat before scythes. Jaime meets the first wave with his blade singing through the morning air. his Valyrian steel parts wildling bronze like parchment, opening throats and piercing hearts with surgical precision. Around him, Night's Watch brothers struggle against overwhelming numbers. "Form ranks," he shouts over the chaos. "Shield wall at the courtyard center. Fall back in order." The retreat proves costly. Brothers fall to wildling axes, while crossbow bolts rain from the wall above. But discipline holds where courage wavers. The Night's Watch fights as a unit, while the wildlings battle as a mob. A giant champion emerges from the melee, standing 14 feet tall with arms like tree trunks. His bronze-studded club has crushed a dozen rangers, and his roar shakes dust from the castle walls. The creature spots Jaime and charges with earth-shaking steps. Jaime dodges the first swing, feeling wind from the massive club ruffle his hair. The giant's backhand stroke would shatter stone, but the former Kingsguard's footwork keeps him clear of the killing blow. He darts inside the giant's reach and opens a long cut across the creature's thigh. The wound would fell any man, but the giant merely roars and swings again. This time, the club grazes Jaime's shoulder, sending him sprawling across blood-slicked stones. He rolls desperately as the giant's foot stamps where his head was moments before. "First Ranger!" Gren appears beside him, thrusting with a spear at the giant's back. The weapon's point finds flesh, but the giant turns and swats Gren aside like an annoying fly. Jaime regains his feet and circles the wounded giant, looking for another opening. The creature bleeds from multiple wounds, but shows no sign of weakening. Its small eyes burn with primal fury as it seeks to crush the golden-haired crow who dares defy it. The giant swings overhead, putting all its massive strength behind the blow. Jaime sidesteps and thrusts upward, his Valyrian steel punching through the creature's ribs to find its heart. The blade sinks deep, and the giant's eyes widen in surprise before it topples backward like a felled tree. "The gate!" someone screams. "More giants at the gate!" But as Jaime turns toward the breach, horn calls echo from the forest beyond. 3 long blasts, then 3 more. Not the Night's Watch signal, but something else. Something unexpected. Through the broken gate comes a tide of steel and horsehair, southern knights with familiar banners snapping in the wind. The golden stag of House Baratheon leads a charge that smashes into the wildling rear, sending painted warriors fleeing in all directions. "Stannis!" Jon Snow shouts from above. "King Stannis has come!" The battle turns in moments. Wildlings caught between the wall's defenders and Stannis's cavalry break and run. And those who stand and fight die quickly under the hooves and lances of professional soldiers. Within an hour, Mance Rayder's great host scatters to the 4 winds. Jaime leans against the gate's remains, an arrow shaft protruding from his shoulder where a wildling archer found his mark. Blood seeps through his mail, but the wound proves shallow. Around him, the courtyard looks like a slaughter yard, with bodies piled 3 deep in places. "You're hurt," Gren observes, approaching with his own wounds bandaged. "I've had worse. Help me with this arrow. It needs to come out clean." They work the barbed point free, while Jon Snow descends from the wall to survey the carnage. The young Lord Commander's face shows the strain of command, but his grey eyes burn with satisfaction at victory. "Casualties?" Jaime asks. 43 dead, twice that wounded," Jon replies grimly. "But we held. The wall stands. And Mance? Taken alive by Stannis' men. The king beyond the wall will face judgment." Stannis Baratheon himself enters Castle Black as afternoon shadows lengthen. The rightful king, in his own mind at least, shows his years of struggle in greying hair and lines etched by failure. But his blue eyes remain sharp as steel, and his jaw carries the determination that has sustained him through countless setbacks. "Lord Commander Snow," Stannis says formally, "I claim victory in the name of the rightful crown." "Your Grace," Jon replies with careful courtesy. "Castle Black thanks you for your timely intervention." "Castle Black?" Stannis' gaze fixes on Jaime, recognition dawning slowly. "By the 7, Jaime Lannister. The Kingslayer himself, wearing black instead of white. Your Grace. Jaime inclines his head respectfully. I serve the Night's Watch now. So I heard. Tales reached Dragonstone of your transformation. I confess I found them difficult to credit until this moment. Stannis studies him with those penetrating eyes. The man who killed Aerys Targaryen now defends the realm instead of serving its corrupted rulers. I serve duty over ambition now, Your Grace. It proves more satisfying than I expected. Indeed. And what of your family's claims on your loyalty? Surely the lions of Casterly Rock miss their famous cub. Lions adapt or they perish. I chose adaptation. Stannis actually smiles at that response, though the expression sits strangely on his stern features. Well said. Perhaps there's hope for honor yet, even among Lannisters. They retire to Jon's chambers for private discussion, while maesters tend the wounded and stewards count the dead. The Lord Commander's quarters feel cramped with 3 men inside, but the conversation that follows proves worth the discomfort. I've come north seeking men and purpose, Stannis explains without preamble. The Iron Throne eludes me through southern politics and family connections. Perhaps I can earn it through service to the realm. Noble sentiment, Jaime observes, though the Night's Watch stays neutral in royal succession. I ask nothing that violates your vows, only that you consider the greater good when this war ends. Jon leans forward with interest. What do you propose, Your Grace? Unity. The realm faces threats beyond political succession. Wildlings, others, the breakdown of order itself. These problems require solutions beyond any single king's ability to provide. And you offer? Leadership, resources, the legitimacy that comes with royal blood and proven competence. Stannis' voice carries the weight of absolute conviction. The realm needs a king who serves duty rather than desires. The Night's Watch has no kings, Jaime reminds him. No, but it has leaders who understand sacrifice. Men like yourselves who choose service over personal gain. Stannis turns his penetrating stare on Jaime. Return south with me, Lannister. I'll legitimize your service as a lord in my own right. Your tactical knowledge and reputation could turn the tide of this war. The offer hangs in the air like incense smoke. Lordship, legitimacy, the chance to influence events beyond the wall's narrow confines. Everything the former Kingsguard once desired, offered by a king who values honor over political expedience. I'm honored by your offer, Your Grace, Jaime says carefully. But my place is here. The real war is coming, and it won't be fought with banners and cavalry charges. The real war, against enemies that turn our dead against us, against cold that kills everything it touches, against extinction itself. Jaime's voice grows harder. The others gather strength beyond the far north. When they come south, all our political conflicts will seem like children's games. You truly believe such tales? I've seen the evidence, fought the whites, watched good men die and rise again with blue eyes burning. Jaime meets Stannis' stare without flinching. The Night's Watch exists for this threat. Everything else is distraction. Stannis considers those words for long moments, before nodding slowly. Perhaps you're right. Perhaps the realm's salvation lies in wisdom rather than conquest. They discuss practical matters, supplies for Castle Black, treatment of prisoners, intelligence about wildling movements. Stannis proves as competent in administration as in warfare, organizing support with military efficiency. 3 days later, a raven arrives from King's Landing, bearing news that shocks even seasoned rangers. Jaime reads the dispatch twice before believing its contents. Tyrion is Hand of the King, he tells Jon privately. Father is dead, killed in his privy by a crossbow bolt. Your brother? The same brother who visited me here months ago. It seems our family's capacity for kinslaying extends beyond myself. The implications cascade through his mind. Tywin Lannister, who ruled through fear and gold, dead by his own son's hand. The Iron Throne left to a boy king and dwarf hand while the realm burns around them. "Will you go south?" Jon asks quietly. "Why would I? My brother made his choice, as I made mine. The dead bury the dead, while the living serve the living." But Tyrion's letter, arriving the next day, carries desperate pleading, wrapped in brotherly affection. "Jaime," it begins, "father is dead by my hand, and I flee King's Landing with a price on my head. Cersei rules through Joffrey's name, while the realm fragments around her incompetence. Our house needs its true heir now, more than ever. Return south and claim Casterly Rock. Lead our family back to stability and honor. The Night's Watch has served its purpose in teaching you humility and duty. Now use those lessons to rebuild what we've destroyed through pride and cruelty. I know you've found peace at the Wall, but the realm burns while you stand guard against distant threats. Sometimes the greatest service requires abandoning comfortable duty for uncomfortable responsibility." Jaime reads the letter 3 times before composing his response. His words flow onto parchment like ice water, each line a deliberate choice between family and principle. "Brother," he writes, "I grieve for father's death and your exile, but I cannot offer the help you seek. My place is here among brothers who understand duty beyond bloodlines." You speak of distant threats as if winter's approach isn't certain. The others gather strength while the realm squabbles over crowns. When they come south, no amount of gold or political maneuvering will matter. I've found my purpose beyond the Game of Thrones. Let others fight for power while I stand guard against extinction. My watch continues until death, as I swore before gods and men. Find your own redemption, Tyrion. Make your own choices about honor and family. But don't ask me to abandon vows I honor completely for obligations I've already transcended. The letter goes south with the next raven, while Jaime returns to his duties as First Ranger. There are patrols to organize, defenses to repair, and always the endless training of new recruits. In the castle's Godswood, he finds an unexpected visitor. A wildling woman, wounded in the battle, sits propped against the heart tree while Maester Aemon tends her injuries. Her painted face shows resignation rather than fear. "You," she says, in accented common tongue when she spots Jaime, the golden-haired crow who killed Mag the Mighty. "Mag? The giant champion? My brother." Her voice carries no anger, only tired acceptance. "He died well, fighting strong enemies. Better than dying of cold and hunger beyond the Wall." Jaime settles beside her on the frozen ground, noting how young she looks beneath the war paint. Perhaps 20, with intelligent eyes that have seen too much death. "I'm sorry for your loss," he says simply. "Why? You fought for your people. He fought for his. That's how wars work." She studies his face with curious intensity. "But you showed mercy when the battle ended. Stopped your men from killing prisoners. Why? Because the fight was over. Because mercy costs nothing and sometimes gains everything. Strange words from a Lannister. Your father burned villages for sport. My father was my father. I am myself." She nods, understanding. "Yes, we choose who we are, not where we come from." Her breathing grows labored as pain takes hold. "I'm dying, aren't I?" "Maester Aemon has great skill. You might recover." "No. I feel the cold in my bones, the darkness at the edges of sight." She grasps his hand with surprising strength. "But I wanted to thank you before the end. For mercy. For treating us like people instead of animals. We're all people. That's what matters. Remember that when winter comes, when the real enemy arrives." Her voice fades to whisper. "The cold doesn't care about crowns or kingdoms. It just kills and kills and kills." She dies as the sun sets behind the wall, her hand still holding his. Jaime closes her eyes gently before carrying word to Maester Aemon. another name for the rolls of the dead, another life claimed by the endless conflict between ice and fire. That night, he stands atop the wall and stares north toward the darkness. Somewhere beyond the horizon, ancient enemies gather strength for war against all living things. The realm they threaten burns itself to ash, while he stands guard with 600 brothers against extinction itself. His family rules in chaos while he serves in purpose. The choice between them grows clearer with each passing day. Winter comes, and he stands ready to meet it. The raven that arrives 3 days after the battle bears news that shakes Castle Black to its ancient foundations. Maester Aemon breaks the seal with trembling fingers, his blind eyes turning toward the parchment, as if sight might return through sheer force of will. His weathered face grows pale as winter snow as he reads. "Brothers," Aemon announces to the assembled garrison, his voice carrying the weight of ages. "Tywin Lannister is dead, killed in King's Landing by a crossbow bolt to the chest." Murmurs ripple through the common hall. The man who ruled the Westerlands through fear and gold for decades, who orchestrated the Red Wedding and burned the Riverlands, cut down in his own castle. But Aemon's next words strike even harder. The killer was his own son, Tyrion Lannister. The dwarf has fled the capital with a price on his head. Jaime feels the words hit like physical blows. His father, dead by his brother's hand. The family that defined his entire existence, until 4 years ago now, tears itself apart through kinslaying and betrayal. The irony cuts deep. The Kingslayer's brother has become a kinslayer in turn. "There's more," Aemon continues. "King Joffrey is also dead, poisoned at his own wedding feast. Prince Tommen has been crowned in his place, with Queen Mother Cersei serving as regent. The realm convulses in chaos." Jon Snow approaches Jaime after the assembly disperses. The young Lord Commander's grey eyes show concern for his first ranger's emotional state. "How do you feel about the news?" Jon asks quietly. "Complicated," Jaime admits. "Tywin was my father, but he was also everything wrong with our family's approach to power. Tyrion." He pauses, gathering his thoughts. "Tyrion was the best of us, in many ways. If he killed father, there were reasons. Will you go south? Your family needs you now, more than ever. My family chose its path through dishonor and cruelty. I chose a different path. The dead bury the dead, while the living serve the living." A second raven arrives before sunset, bearing Cersei's personal seal. Her letter burns with desperation and fury in equal measure. "Jaime," she writes, "everything falls apart. Father is dead. Joffrey is dead. Tyrion has fled after murdering our Lord Father. Tommen sits the throne, but he's barely more than a boy. I rule as regent, but lords and ladies whisper behind my back about a woman's weakness. The realm fragments around us. Dawn speaks of vengeance for Oberyn's death. The Tyrells grow ambitious beyond their station. Even our own bannermen question Lannister authority without Father's iron hand to guide them. Come home. The Night's Watch has served whatever purpose you sought. Your family needs its true heir, its strongest sword, its wisest mind. Return to Casterly Rock and help me hold our legacy together. Everything we built, everything we are, depends on your choice. Choose family over strangers. Choose blood over vows to criminals and outcasts. Choose love over the cold honor that has defined your exile." Jaime reads the letter twice before setting it aside unanswered. The sister who once consumed his thoughts now seems like a stranger writing from a foreign land. Her world of court intrigue and family politics feels distant as the moon compared to the immediate realities of defending the realm against extinction. Troubled by news from home? The voice belongs to Tormund Giantsbane, the wildling leader who survived the battle and now serves as unofficial ambassador between his people and the Night's Watch. The red-bearded giant sits beside Jaime at the common table, his massive frame making the bench creak, Home is here now, Jaime replies. The South can solve its own problems. Good answer. Tormund tears into a chunk of salted beef with yellowed teeth. Family chains bind harder than iron, but smart men learn when to break free. The integration of wildling prisoners proves Jon Snow's greatest challenge as Lord Commander. Many Night's Watch brothers resist the idea of accepting former enemies as allies. The hatred runs deep after centuries of raiding and warfare. They're savages, Bowen Marsh argues during a council meeting. Murderers and thieves who've spent their lives attacking the very people we're sworn to protect. They're refugees, Jaime counters, driven south by threats worse than anything we've faced. Would you rather fight them here, or fight beside them against the real enemy? The real enemy? The others. The army of the dead that waits beyond the far north. Mance Rayder didn't gather 100,000 people for conquest. He gathered them for survival. Jon listens to all perspectives before making his decision. We'll integrate willing prisoners as auxiliary forces. They know the lands beyond the wall better than anyone. Their knowledge could save lives when the real war begins. The decision proves controversial, but practical. Wildling scouts range further north than any crow, bringing intelligence about strange movements in the haunted forest. Their warriors, trained in guerrilla warfare, teach Night's Watch brothers tactics for fighting in wilderness conditions. Jaime finds himself working closely with Tormund to organize training exercises. The wildling leader commands respect among his people through strength and cunning rather than birth or title. Your southern lords fight like dancers, Tormund observes during a mock battle between wildlings and rangers. Pretty formations and fancy footwork. We fight like wolves, quick, dirty, and always for the kill. Both approaches have value. Discipline wins battles. Savagery wins wars. Smart crow. No wonder your people made you first ranger, despite that pretty face. Their friendship develops through shared combat and mutual respect. Tormund speaks freely about life beyond the wall, about the ancient threats that drove his people south, about the strange signs that herald the coming winter. The trees remember, he tells Jaime during a ranging expedition 20 leagues north of the wall. Look there. Ancient symbols spiral up the bark of a massive oak, carved by hands unknown. The markings seem to shift in peripheral vision, creating patterns that hurt to observe directly. Even Ghost refuses to approach the marked tree, the direwolf growling low in his throat. First men work? Jaime asks. Older. From before men learned to work iron, before the children of the forest taught them to carve runes. These marks. Tormund's voice drops to whisper. These mark the others' passage. They find more signs as they travel further north. Entire groves of marked trees, stone circles arranged in patterns that suggest intelligence beyond human understanding. Clearings where nothing grows despite rich soil and adequate sunlight. At an abandoned Meister's Tower 2 days north of the wall, they discover something more disturbing still. The tower stands empty, its inhabitant fled or dead years ago, but the library remains intact. Scrolls and books fill every shelf, documenting centuries of observation from this remote outpost. Jaime reads by candlelight while Tormund keeps watch. The texts speak of patterns, migrations of animals fleeing north, changes in weather beyond normal seasonal variation, sightings of pale figures moving through the deep forest. Look at this, Jaime calls Tormund over to examine a particularly old manuscript. 8,000 years ago, during the long night. The others came south, with winter at their backs, driving everything before them, until only the Night's Watch stood between them and extinction. I know the tale. My grandmother's grandmother told it around winter fires. The dead walked, and the living died, and the world grew cold for a generation. But they were stopped by something called the Last Hero, who found a way to defeat them with weapons of dragon glass and Valyrian steel. Old stories, Crow. True ones, but old. Not so old if they're happening again. A raven arrives from Old Town, as they prepare to return to Castle Black. The message bears the seal of Samwell Tarly, the former Night's Watch brother, who was sent south to forge his Meister's chain. First Ranger Lannister, Sam's letter begins. My research at the Citadel has uncovered disturbing patterns in historical records. References to the others appear in sources spanning thousands of years, always associated with unusually harsh winters and mass migration southward. More importantly, I found accounts of weapons effective against such creatures. Dragon glass, which the Meisters call obsidian, appears in multiple sources as capable of killing others permanently. Valyrian steel shows similar properties, though the reasons remain unclear. The Citadel's library contains maps of ancient dragonglass deposits throughout the north. If the threats you describe prove real, these locations may offer our only hope of effective resistance. I've also found references to alliances between the Night's Watch, wildling clans, and northern houses during the original Long Night. History suggests that survival required unity across traditional boundaries. Jaime shares Sam's research with Jon and the senior rangers. The intelligence proves invaluable for planning the defense against threats that most Southerners dismiss as fairy tales. We need to expand our alliances, Jon concludes after studying the maps and texts. The mountain clans, the northern houses, anyone willing to listen to reason about what's coming. I'll go, Jaime volunteers. A former lord carries more weight with southern nobles than a bastard, even one who commands the Night's Watch. That's asking a lot. Some of those lords fought your family during the war. All the more reason for me to go. If a Lannister can put aside old grudges for the realm's defense, perhaps others will follow that example. The mission takes him beyond the wall's immediate vicinity for the first time since joining the Night's Watch. He travels south with a small escort, carrying letters from Jon Snow and copies of Sam's research to present to skeptical lords. The northern mountain clans prove surprisingly receptive. These hardy folk have lived with wildling raids for generations, understanding threats from beyond the wall in ways that southerners cannot. Clan chiefs listen to tales of others, and whites with grim acceptance rather than disbelief. We've heard the stories from our grandfathers, says Hugo Wool, chief of a clan near the wall. When winter comes hard and long, strange things walk in the White Woods. Then you'll stand with us when the time comes? Aye, better to die fighting than freeze as thralls to ice demons. Similar conversations take place with other clan leaders. The Norries, the Liddles, the Flints of the mountains, all pledge support when the real war begins. They lack the numbers of great houses, but their warriors know the northern wilderness and fight with desperate courage. A final raven arrives as Jaime prepares to return to Castle Black. Cersei's seal bears signs of haste, the wax uneven and poorly pressed. Her words burn with final desperation. Jaime, the letter begins, I offer everything if you return immediately. Casterly Rock and all its gold, recognition as my heir and successor, marriage to whomever you choose, with royal approval for any children born of such union. The realm crumbles while you play at honor among savages. Dawn prepares for war over Oberyn's death. The faith militant grows bold in King's Landing. Even our own supporters whisper doubts about Lannister strength. I need you, not as brother or lover or political ally, but as the only person who ever truly understood me. Return home, and we'll rule together, openly and honorably. No more lies, no more deception. Just power shared between equals. This is my final offer, my last plea. Come home, or watch everything we built turn to ash and memory. Jaime reads the letter once before, feeding it to the fire in Jon's chambers. The flames consume his sister's words as completely as time has consumed their shared past. Another plea from family, Jon asks. The last one she'll send. I made my choice 4 years ago. Every day since has proven its wisdom. No regrets? None. The realm faces its greatest crisis in 8 millennia. Everything else is politics and personal ambition. Jaime stares into the fire where Cersei's letter has become ash and memory. The Night's Watch exists for moments like this. When the world ends, someone must stand guard while it's reborn. That night, he dreams of ice and fire warring across endless battlefields. He wakes with frost on his blankets and absolute certainty that winter brings more than cold to the realms of men. The wall stands eternal, and he stands with it. The Game of Thrones continues in the south, but here at the world's end, the real game approaches its final moves. His watch continues, and the greatest battle in human history waits just beyond the light of their fires. 4 years have passed since Jaime Lannister first donned the black, and the man who stands on Castle Black's walls bears little resemblance to the golden knight who once served kings. Grey threads his hair now, earned through ranging beyond the wall where lesser men find only death. Scars mark his hands and arms, each one a lesson learned in survival against enemies that shouldn't exist. The training yard echoes with the ring of steel on steel as Jaime observes the morning exercises. Among the new recruits, practice lords' sons, fleeing southern wars alongside common folk, seeking purpose beyond their humble births. War and chaos have driven them all north, to the last place where honor still means something. Form ranks, Jaime calls to a group practicing shield wall maneuvers. Lock shields. Trust your brothers. The recruits respond with enthusiasm that would have been impossible to imagine 4 years ago. Word of the Night's Watch has spread throughout the realm, not as a dumping ground for criminals and bastards, but as the last bastion of true service. The Golden Sword of Castle Black, as singers call him in taverns from dawn to the wall. Jon Snow approaches across the yard, the young Lord Commander moving with the confident stride of a man who has grown into his responsibilities. At 20, he commands respect from brothers twice his age through competence and courage rather than birth or politics. The Lords of Winterfell have called a great council, Jon announces. Representatives from every northern house to discuss the realm's defense. They've requested Night's Watch participation. They want legitimacy for their plans. A brother of the Watch carries no political agenda. More than that, they want you specifically, the former Lannister who chose duty over family glory. Jon's grey eyes show understanding of the symbolism involved. Your presence would demonstrate that the threat transcends old loyalties. When do we leave? Within the fortnight. Take an honor guard. This needs to look official. A commotion at the main gate interrupts their conversation. Riders approach from the south, their horses lathered despite the cold. The lead figure wears travel-stained clothes that once showed quality, his golden hair dulled by road dust, but still recognizable. Gods preserve us, Jaime breathes. Lancel. His cousin dismounts in Castle Black's courtyard with the careful movements of a man carrying invisible wounds. Lancel Lannister, once a squire to King Robert, once a knight of middling skill and noble ambition, now appears aged beyond his years by experiences that have broken stronger men. Cousin, Lancel says formally as he approaches, I come seeking sanctuary and service with the Night's Watch. Granted, of course, though I confess surprise at seeing you here. Where else would I go? The South holds nothing for me now, but ashes and regret. They retire to Jaime's chambers where Lancel tells his tale over cups of mulled wine. The story unfolds like a cautionary ballad about the price of serving corrupt power. I tried to find honor in service to the crown, Lancel explains, his voice carrying the weight of bitter experience. Fought for Cersei when she needed swords, took wounds defending her regency from the faith militant, believed in the righteousness of Lannister rule. What changed? Everything. The realm burns while she drinks wine and plots revenge against imagined enemies. Tommen sits the throne, but commands nothing, not even respect from his own guards. The Faith controls King's Landing, while sellswords patrol the countryside. Lancel stares into his wine, as if seeking answers in its depths. I gave everything to our family's cause, and received nothing but scorn for my loyalty. Cersei called me weak when I counseled mercy. Tommen ignored my advice about rebuilding alliances. Even distant cousins questioned my competence. So you came north. I came seeking what you found, redemption through service to something greater than family politics. Lancel looks up with eyes that have seen too much disillusionment. You found honor. I lost everything seeking what you abandoned. The words carry truth that cuts deeper than any sword. Jaime sees in his cousin's face the man he might have become, broken by loyalty to those who deserved none, destroyed by service to unworthy masters. Honor isn't found, cousin. It's chosen. Every day, with every decision, through every sacrifice that serves something larger than personal desire. Can it be chosen by men who've made terrible choices? Especially by such men. The Night's Watch welcomes those who seek redemption through duty. Lancel takes the Black 3 days later, in a ceremony that draws half of Castle Black's garrison. His oath rings across the Godswood with the conviction of a man finally freed from impossible obligations. Another lost soul finds purpose in service to the realm's defense. The journey to Winterfell takes a fortnight through country, still healing from years of war. Villages show signs of recovery, new construction, planted fields, children playing where battlefields once claimed lives. The realm endures despite its rulers' failures, testament to common folk's resilience. Winterfell's great hall buzzes with tension as representatives from every northern house gather for counsel. Lords who fought on different sides during the war now sit together, united by shared recognition that greater threats demand unity. Banners bearing the direwolf hang beside those of houses that once called themselves enemies. Sansa Stark enters the hall as the council convenes, and Jaime barely recognizes the girl who once curtsied prettily in King's Landing. The woman before him carries herself with the poise of someone who has survived more tragedy than most men face in lifetimes. At 16, she commands attention through presence rather than title. "Sir Jaime," she says formally, though her blue eyes show warmth. We're honored by the Night's Watch's presence. "Lady Stark, the honor is mine. I wanted to thank you personally for the choice you made 4 years ago. Your leaving may have saved more lives than any sword could have won." The words surprise him. "How so, my lady?" "Your absence changed everything. Father's investigation proceeded differently without Kingsguard interference. The war's course shifted without your tactical expertise supporting our enemies." Her voice grows thoughtful. "Sometimes the greatest service lies in stepping aside rather than stepping forward." The council discussion ranges across threats, both immediate and distant: wildling integration, resource allocation, intelligence gathering, all practical matters requiring coordination between traditionally independent houses. But when Jaime speaks of the others, of the army of the dead that waits beyond the wall, the hall falls silent. "The threat is real," he tells the assembled lords. "I've seen the evidence myself. Ancient enemies stir in the far north, growing stronger with each village they claim. When they come south, political differences will mean nothing." "You're certain of this?" asks Lord Manderley, his massive frame filling his chair. "Certain enough to stake my life and honor on its truth. The Night's Watch exists for this moment. Everything else is preparation. The lords debate long into the night, but consensus emerges by dawn. Northern resources will flow to the wall's defense. Soldiers will train for warfare against supernatural enemies. Ancient alliances will be honored when the real war begins." As autumn deepens toward winter, reports arrive of strange sightings beyond the wall. Entire wildling settlements found empty, their inhabitants vanished without trace. Trees marked with symbols that hurt to observe. Temperatures dropping far below normal seasonal patterns. Jaime leads his final ranging 50 leagues north of the wall, seeking concrete evidence of what every instinct tells him approaches. His force numbers 30 rangers. Volunteers who understand they may not return from this mission. 3 days north of Castle Black, they find what they seek. The enemy camp sprawls across a valley floor, like a city built from ice and shadow. Thousands of wights move with terrible purpose between pavilions made from frozen corpses. At the camp's heart stand figures that chill more than winter wind. The others themselves, tall and pale and beautiful in the way that death is beautiful when seen from distance. "Sweet gods," whispers Gren beside him. "There must be 50,000 of them." "More," Jaime replies grimly. "And this is only the vanguard." The retreat begins immediately, but the others have sentries of their own. Wights pursue them through the forest, cold hands grasping at horses' tails and riders' cloaks. The running battle lasts 3 days as they fight their way south toward the wall. Half the ranging party dies in the retreat, their bodies left burning in the forest to prevent resurrection. The survivors reach Castle Black with proof of what waits in the north. White weapons, ice that never melts, and the terrible certainty that humanity's greatest test approaches. Jaime spends the following weeks writing letters to every lord in Westeros, every free city across the narrow sea, every power that might provide aid when the long night comes again. Most will dismiss his warnings as Night's Watch desperation for supplies and men. But some will listen. Some will prepare. As winter's grip tightens on the realm, he stands atop the wall and watches the northern horizon for signs of advancing darkness. The barrier that has protected the realms of men for 8,000 years feels fragile beneath his feet, inadequate against the forces that gather beyond sight. Behind him, Castle Black prepares for siege. Weapons are sharpened, supplies stockpiled, defenses reinforced. Wildlings and Night's Watch brothers train together under his direction, former enemies united by shared understanding of what approaches. The irony is not lost on him. The man who broke his most sacred oath now defends the most sacred duty. The Kingslayer has become something greater. Not the knight he was, but the knight the realm needs. A raven arrives from King's Landing, bearing news that Cersei has died in her cells, driven to madness by wine and isolation. Tommen rules in name, while lords loyal to no one fight over the crown's remnants. The Game of Thrones continues even as the real game approaches its final moves. Jaime reads the letter twice before feeding it to the flames. The woman who once defined his existence has passed into memory, while he lives on in purpose. The choice he made 4 years ago has proven itself with each day that followed. That night, he dreams of his father's voice, asking why he chose duty over family. In the dream, he answers with words he never found in life. Because family ends with death, but duty endures forever. He wakes before dawn to the sound of horns calling from the wall's watchtowers. 3 long blasts echo across the battlements, the signal for others. For the first time in 8,000 years, the ancient enemy has returned. Jaime dresses quickly and climbs to the wall's highest point. In the distance, pale lights move through the darkness like fallen stars given malevolent purpose. The army of the dead marches south at last, bringing winter and death and the end of everything warm. But the wall stands, and he stands with it. The Night's Watch numbers barely 800 brothers now, augmented by twice that many wildlings and northern volunteers. Against the forces that approach, such numbers seem pathetically inadequate. Yet they will stand. They will fight. They will hold the line while the realm prepares for war against extinction itself. The Golden Knight is gone, replaced by something harder and truer. The Kingslayer has become the Knight Eternal, guardian of humanity's last light against the coming darkness. His watch begins now, as it began 4 years ago, when he chose honor over comfort. It will not end until his death, as he swore before gods and men. Winter has come, and with it, the real war begins. That's our theory. The North is a land filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey across the 7 kingdoms and beyond, then please